He promised a dying lawman he'd deliver the prisoner. He didn't promise to keep him happy. Dead weight. Chapter 1. The heat in the Arizona border country didn't just sit on you, it hunted you. It waited in the white alkali flats and the red rock canyons, patient as a snake, looking for a crack in your resolve or a hole in your canteen. Eldridge Sample rode the bay horse through a silence so profound it felt like pressure against the eardrums. The only sound came from the rhythmic crunch of iron shoes on baked hardpan and the creak of saddle leather drying out in real time. He kept his eyes on the middle distance. Looking too far ahead just showed you more of the nothing you had yet to cross. Looking down showed you the bones of things that didn't make it. Easy, Eldridge said. The bay tossed its head, jingling the bit. The animal smelled water, or maybe it just smelled the change in the air currents that meant the salt flats were ending and the broken ground of the badlands began. Eldridge checked the sun. It hung in the western sky, a hammered copper disk that refused to set. He calculated 2 hours of daylight left. Enough to find a windbreak, build a dry camp, and eat a tin of beans that would taste like dust no matter how much pepper he added. He scanned the horizon line, searching for the jagged profile of the Chimney Rock Formation. He didn't see the rock. He saw the birds. They circled a mile to the south, black specks turning in a slow, tightening spiral against the bleached sky. Buzzards. They didn't fly for exercise. They flew because something on the ground had stopped moving. Eldridge pulled the bay up. He watched the pattern. The birds dropped lower, disappearing behind a ridge of sandstone, only to rise again on the thermal, banking hard. Trouble, Eldridge said. He didn't have to go look. He had supplies. He had a strong horse. He had $500 in gold coin, belted around his waist, money that whispered promises of a soft bed and a bottle of whiskey in Tucson. Turning south meant burning daylight and miles he didn't need to spend. But the birds persisted. They dipped and rose like ashes from a fire. Curiosity is a vice, Eldridge thought. But leaving a man to the birds is a sin. He turned the bay south. The terrain changed within a quarter mile. The flat hardpan fractured into a maze of dry washes and arroyos, scars cut into the earth by flash floods that raged for an hour and vanished for a year. The ground turned to loose shale and sand that sucked at the horse's hooves. Eldridge rode the rim of a deep cut. He kept his hand near the walnut grip of the Colt on his hip. Buzzards marked the dead, but sometimes the dead had friends who were still very much alive and sitting in the shade with a rifle. He smelled it before he saw it. The scent of blood, hot and copper tangy, mixed with the smell of splintered wood and stressed iron. He crested a rise and looked down into the wash. The wreck lay at the bottom of a steep embankment, a tangled mess of debris that looked like it had fallen from the sky. It wasn't a buckboard or a freight wagon. It was a cage on wheels. A prison transport. The kind used by federal marshals to haul hard cases from the territory jails to the stone walls of Yuma. Heavy timber frame, iron bars reinforced with steel strapping, painted a black that had peeled away to reveal gray wood underneath. It rested on its side, the undercarriage exposed like the ribs of a slaughtered cow. One rear wheel spun slowly in the slight breeze, the spokes flashing. The tongue of the wagon had snapped clean off, jabbing into the sand. Hell of a spill, Eldridge muttered. He scanned the rim of the wash. No riders. No ambush spots. Just the empty baking rocks. He nudged the bay down the slope. The horse slid on its haunches, kicking up a cloud of red dust that hung in the still air. Eldridge reached the bottom. He tied the horse to a piece of driftwood lodged in the bank. He drew the Colt. He approached the wreck from the rear. The team of horses lay in a heap 50 yards down the wash. 4 of them. 2 were dead, necks broken in the tumble. The other two were gone, likely cut loose or panicked enough to snap the traces. Eldridge walked to the front of the wagon. The driver lay half buried in the sand. He had been thrown from the box when the wheel hit the rock. He lay twisted, legs bent at angles legs don't bend. He wore a duster and a wide-brimmed hat that had come to rest 10 feet away. Eldridge crouched beside him. He didn't check for a pulse. The angle of the neck told the story. "Bad luck," Eldridge said. He stood and moved toward the wagon body. The iron cage lay tipped over, the door facing the canyon wall. He couldn't see inside from this angle, just the heavy canvas tarp that covered the roof, now shredded and flapping. He heard a sound. A scrape. Like a boot heel dragging on wood. Eldridge moved to the rear of the wagon. He rounded the corner, gun lead. A man sat propped against the rear wheel. He wore a badge pinned to a vest that had once been black, but now matched the dust of the wash. A tin star. U.S. Marshal. He looked bad. His face had gone the color of old parchment, gray and translucent. Sweat beaded on his forehead, cold and slick. His left leg stretched out in front of him, the trousers torn, revealing a bandage soaked through with fresh, bright red blood. A Winchester rifle lay across his lap, his hand resting on the receiver, fingers twitching but unable to grip. He looked up as Eldridge stepped into his line of sight. His eyes were glassy, unfocused, fighting to fix on the shape blocking the sun. "Back off," the marshal rasped. His voice sounded like gravel grinding in a tin can. Eldridge stopped. He holstered the Colt. He held his hands out, palms open. "I'm not the enemy, Marshal," Eldridge said. "Just a passerby. Saw the birds." The marshal blinked. He tried to lift the rifle. The barrel scraped the wheel rim, but didn't rise. He lacked the strength. "Water," the marshal whispered. Eldridge unhooked the canteen from his shoulder. He knelt beside the man. He uncorked it and held it to the lawman's cracked lips. "Slow," Eldridge warned. The marshal drank. He gulped, choked, coughed a spray of red mist, then drank again. He slumped back against the spokes, the effort costing him the last of his reserves. "Who are you?" the marshal asked. "Sample. Eldridge Sample. Yuma lawman." "Used to be," Eldridge said. "Now I'm just a man crossing the flats." The marshal looked at the dead driver in the distance. He looked at the wreckage. Did they get him?" "Who?" "The prisoner," the marshal said. "Sweet. Virgil Sweet." Eldridge looked at the cage. The iron bars were intact. The door, jammed against the canyon wall, looked secure. He couldn't see inside through the slats and the dust. "I haven't checked the cargo," Eldridge said. "Is he dangerous?" "He's expensive," the marshal said. He grimaced, pain spasming across his face. He pressed his hand against his leg. The blood seeped between his fingers. "You're bleeding out," Eldridge said. "I need to put a tourniquet on that." "Too late," the marshal said. "Arteries nicked. I can feel the cold coming up." Eldridge looked at the wound. The man was right. The blood was pumping with a rhythm that was slowing down. "What happened?" Eldridge asked. "Wheel break?" "Shot," the marshal said. "Sniper. Up on the ridge. Hit the lead horse." The team panicked. Went over the edge. Eldridge looked up at the rim. "Ambush," Eldridge said. "They want him," the marshal said. "They want Virgil." "Who?" "Bishop," the marshal spat the name. "Bishop and his dogs." Eldridge knew the name. Everyone in the territory knew Bishop. Bank robber. Train robber. A man who killed for sport and profit. "If Bishop hit you," Eldridge said, "why is he gone? Why leave the wagon?" "We returned fire," the marshal said. My deputy. Jimmy, he held them off while the wagon went over. They think we're dead. Or they're circling, looking for a way down. The marshal reached out. He grabbed Eldridge's coat sleeve. His grip was weak, trembling. You have to take him. Take who? The prisoner? Virgil, the marshal said. Get him to Yuma. Or kill him. I'm not a marshal anymore, Eldridge said. I'm not in the transport business. You are now, the marshal wheezed. Bishop, he can't have him. If Bishop gets him, he gets the bonds. Bonds? Union Pacific, the marshal said. Bearer bonds. 50,000. Virgil stole them. Hid them. Eldridge looked at the cage again. $50,000. That explained the ambush. That explained the dead horses. Where are they? Eldridge asked. Only Virgil knows, the marshal said. That's why he's alive. Bishop will peel him like a grape to get the location. Then he'll kill him. The marshal's eyes rolled back. He shook his head, fighting the darkness. Don't let them have him, the marshal whispered. Promise me. I can't promise that, Marshal. I got my own road. You're a lawman, the marshal said. It don't wash off. He reached into his vest pocket. He fumbled. He pulled out a key ring. A heavy brass key hung from it. The cage, the marshal said. Take it. He pressed the key into Eldridge's hand. The metal was warm from his body heat. Promise, the marshal said again. Eldridge looked at the key. He looked at the dying man. He looked at the buzzards circling overhead, waiting for the table to be set. He closed his hand around the brass. I'll take care of it, Eldridge said. The marshal let out a long sigh. The tension went out of his shoulders. His head tipped back against the wheel spokes. He stared up at the strip of blue sky between the canyon walls. Hot, the marshal whispered. Then he stopped breathing. Eldridge stayed crouched for a moment. He felt the silence rush back in to fill the space the man's breathing had occupied. He stood up. He brushed the sand from his knees. He looked at the key in his hand. Damn it, Eldridge said softly. He walked to the cage. He climbed up on the side of the overturned chassis. He peered through the iron bars. It was dark inside. He saw a shape huddled in the corner, bracing itself against the ceiling, which was now the wall. You alive in there? Eldridge asked. A face turned toward the light. A man in a dust-covered suit. He wore a bowler hat, miraculously still on his head. He had a round face, smooth, with eyes that darted like minnows in a bucket. I am currently among the living, the man said. His voice was calm, annoyed rather than terrified. Though the accommodations have taken a turn for the worse. Virgil Sweet. At your service, the prisoner said. Now, do you have a key, or are we going to discuss the weather until Bishop comes back to finish the job? Eldridge looked at the man. He didn't look like a master thief. He looked like a piano player in a cheap brothel. I got the key, Eldridge said. Then I suggest you use it, Virgil said. Unless you prefer the company of vultures. Eldridge looked up at the rim. The sun was gone from the canyon floor. The shadows were stretching. He jammed the key into the lock. He had a prisoner. He had a dead marshal. And somewhere out in the rocks, he had a gang of killers looking for a payday. The quiet ride was over. The dead weight had just been loaded. Chapter 2. The brass key felt greasy in Eldridge Sample's hand, slick with the sweat of a dead man. He jammed it into the lock mechanism of the cage door. It didn't turn. The wagon was lying on its side, which meant the heavy iron door was horizontal, pressing down on its hinges with the full weight of the reinforced oak frame. Gravity was working against the mechanics. "You have to lift it," the voice from inside said. "It's binding on the latch." Eldridge looked through the bars. Virgil Sweet was crouching in the gloom, his knees pulled up to his chest to keep from sliding down the incline of the overturned floor. He looked like a man waiting for a train that was late, checking an invisible watch. "I know how a door works," Eldridge said. "Could have fooled me. You're twisting it like you're trying to wring a chicken's neck. Finesse, cowboy. Lift and twist." Eldridge gritted his teeth. He holstered the Colt to free up both hands. He grabbed the iron bars of the door with his left hand and hauled upward, straining his back. The metal groaned. With his right hand, he turned the key. Clack. The tumbler rolled over. Heavy. Final. Eldridge pulled the door open. It swung up, heavy as a tombstone, and he had to brace it with his shoulder to keep it from slamming back down. "Out," Eldridge said. Virgil Sweet didn't scramble. He didn't claw his way to freedom. He reached up and adjusted his hat, a black bowler that was covered in red dust but miraculously undented. He patted the crown, settling it firmly on his head. Then he climbed out. He moved with the agility of a man used to tight spaces. He grabbed the doorframe, swung his legs up, and vaulted out of the cage, landing in the sand next to Eldridge. He stood up. He brushed the dust from the lapels of his suit. It was a pinstripe three-piece, cut for a city that had sidewalks. He checked his cuffs. He checked his watch chain. He ignored Eldridge. He ignored the dead driver sprawled 10 yards away. He ignored the buzzards. He looked at the sun. 3 o'clock, Virgil said. Maybe 3:30. We missed lunch. We missed dying, Eldridge said. Virgil turned to look at him. He had a face that was hard to read, smooth, round, with a mustache that was waxed to sharp points. His eyes were dark, intelligent, and completely devoid of gratitude. "Speak for yourself," Virgil said. "I was perfectly safe in the box. The steel is reinforced. You, on the other hand, are standing in the open. The box is a coffin if nobody opens it." "Details," Virgil said. He reached into his vest pocket. He pulled out a silver cigar case. He flicked it open. 3 cigars nestled inside. Expensive ones. He offered the case to Eldridge. "Smoke." Eldridge shook his head. "I roll my own." "Suit yourself. These are Cuban. Smuggled through Mexico. Cost $1 apiece." Virgil took one. He clipped the end with a small silver cutter attached to his watch chain. He put the cigar in his mouth. He patted his pockets. He frowned. "I seem to have lost my matches in the tumble," Virgil said. "You wouldn't happen to have a light?" Eldridge looked at him. The man was standing in a wreck, 2 dead men within spitting distance, miles from water, and he wanted a light. "You're a cool one," Eldridge said. "Panic makes you sweat," Virgil said. "Sweat ruins the silk." Eldridge reached into his pocket. He pulled out a lucifer. He struck it on the iron tire rim of the wagon. The flame flared. He held it out. Virgil leaned in. He puffed. The tobacco caught, glowing orange. He exhaled a cloud of blue smoke that smelled of spices and money. "Obliged," Virgil said. He walked around the wagon. He stopped at the rear wheel. Marshal Tate was sitting there, exactly where he had died. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. The flies had found him. Virgil looked down at the lawman. He didn't take off his hat. "He wasn't a bad sort," Virgil said. "For a federal dog. He let me keep the cigars." "He saved your life," Eldridge said. He fought them off while the wagon went over. He was doing his job, Virgil said. He gets paid to get shot at. I don't. Virgil leaned down. He reached for the Marshal's vest. Don't, Eldridge said. His hand went to the Colt. Virgil stopped. He looked over his shoulder. I'm just getting the keys, Virgil said. He held up his wrists. They were manacled. Heavy iron cuffs, connected by a 6-inch chain. Hard to ride with these on, Virgil said. You aren't riding, Eldridge said. Not yet. We walking. That's going to be murder on my Italian leather. Step away from the body, Eldridge said. Virgil sighed. He stood up, puffing on the cigar. He stepped back. You're a suspicious nature, Mr. Sample. I appreciate that. Suspicion keeps you breathing. Eldridge moved to the body. He patted down the Marshal's vest. He found the key ring. There was a smaller key on it. He stood up. He didn't unlock the cuffs. He put the keys in his pocket. Virgil watched him. The cigar smoke drifted between them. You're keeping the jewelry on? Virgil asked. The Marshal gave me a job, Eldridge said. He said, deliver you to Yuma. Virgil laughed. It was a genuine laugh, bright and amused. He's dead, cowboy. His authority stopped when his heart did. You aren't a deputy. You're just a good Samaritan who stumbled onto a bad scene. I gave him my word. Words are wind, Virgil said. Look around you. We are in the middle of the devil's anvil. Bishop is out there. He has 5 men, repeating rifles, and a very bad temper. You think dragging a prisoner to Yuma is a good survival strategy? Bishop wants you, Eldridge said. Why? Because I'm charming, Virgil said. He tapped ash onto the dead Marshal's boot. And because I know where the bodies are buried. He wants the bonds, Eldridge said. Virgil paused. The cigar stopped halfway to his mouth. His eyes narrowed just a fraction. Tate talked, Virgil said. Before he checked out. He said you stole 50,000 in bearer bonds. He said Bishop wants them back. Bishop stole them, Virgil corrected. From the railroad. I just reallocated them. You stole from a thief. I embezzled, Virgil said. I was the bookkeeper. The brains. Bishop is the muscle. Muscle is useless without a brain to tell it which way to flex. So where are they? Virgil tapped the side of his nose. Safe. And far away. Which is why you should let me go. You uncuff me, I give you $1,000. Cash. When we get to civilization. I don't want your money. 5,000, Virgil said. That's a lot of beans, cowboy. I promised the dead man, Eldridge said. You're going to prison, Virgil. Not to the bank. Virgil studied him. He looked for the crack. He looked for the greed. He didn't see it. He saw a man who looked like he had been carved out of the same rock as the canyon walls. You're serious, Virgil said. Dead serious. Eldridge walked past him. He went to the wreckage of the wagon. He needed to scavenge. They needed water. They needed weapons. He found the Marshal's carpet bag. He opened it. A spare shirt. A box of .44 .40 ammunition. A flask of whiskey. I'll take that, Virgil said, reaching for the flask. Eldridge handed it to him. Don't get drunk. You fall off, I drag you. Virgil uncorked the flask. He took a long pull. He wiped his mouth. Excellent vintage, Virgil said. For a government employee. Eldridge found the water barrel strapped to the side of the wagon. It was cracked, leaking. Most of the water was gone, soaking into the sand. He managed to fill his canteen, and a second one he found in the debris. 2 canteens. 2 men. 1 horse. We need a mount, Eldridge said. There were 4, Virgil said. 2 snapped their necks. 2 ran. They wouldn't run far, Eldridge said. Not with the harness dragging. He walked down the wash. He found the survivors tangled in a mesquite bush 100 yards away. A gray gelding and a bay mare. The mare was lame, favoring a foreleg. The gray looked skittish but sound. Eldridge cut the gray loose from the traces. He checked the legs. Good bone. He led the horse back to the wreck. Can you ride? Eldridge asked. I was born in a saddle, Virgil lied. Though I prefer a carriage. You get the gray. Bareback. Unless we find a saddle in that mess. Bareback, Virgil groaned. My tailor will weep. Eldridge searched the wreck. No riding saddle. Just the harness. He pulled a blanket from the marshal's bag and threw it over the gray's back. He fashioned a hackamore from a piece of rope. Up, Eldridge said. Virgil looked at the horse. He looked at the cuffs on his wrists. I need my hands free to mount, Virgil said. Grab the mane, Eldridge said. Jump. Virgil sighed. He put the cigar in his mouth. He grabbed the mane with both hands. He swung a leg up. He scrambled, slipping, ruining the crease in his trousers, but he got on. He sat there, looking ridiculous in the bowler hat and the suit, perched on a workhorse with a rope bridle. Dignity, Virgil said, adjusting his coat. It is the first casualty of travel. Eldridge mounted his bay. We ride south, Eldridge said. Toward the badlands. The rocks will hide the dust. Bishop is north, Virgil said. Circling. He'll find the wreck soon. He'll see the tracks. He'll know you're alive. He'll be thrilled. Eldridge looked at the dead Marshal one last time. He couldn't bury him. The ground was too hard, and they didn't have a shovel. Sorry, Tate, Eldridge whispered. He turned the bay. Let's go, he said. Lead on, Macduff, Virgil said. Name's Sample. I know. But Macduff sounds more dramatic. And if we're going to die in a canyon, we might as well have some flair. They rode out of the wash. The sun was touching the rim now, painting the rocks in shades of blood and bruise. Eldridge kept his eyes on the skyline. He had a prisoner who wouldn't shut up, a horse that wasn't used to a rider, and a gang of killers closing the net. The heat was breaking, but the pressure was just starting to build. Chapter 3. Virgil Sweet sat on the hub of the overturned wagon wheel, dusting off his bowler hat with a sleeve that was already turning the color of the Arizona landscape. He watched Eldridge Sample kneel beside the dead Marshal. You're robbing the dead, Virgil said. He took the cigar from his mouth and inspected the ash. I have no moral objection, mind you. It just seems contrary to that stone-faced sermon you gave me about promises. I'm not robbing him, Eldridge said. I'm checking his pockets. That's a distinction without a difference in a court of law, cowboy. Eldridge ignored him. He patted down Marshal Tate's vest. The body was cooling, the blood on the leg turning tacky and dark in the heat. He found what he was looking for in the inside pocket. A leather wallet, sweat-stained and bent. Eldridge opened it. Papers. A train schedule. A letter from a woman named Clara in Topeka asking when he was coming home. And a folded document on heavy bond paper, stamped with the seal of the United States District Court. Eldridge unfolded it. Warrant for arrest. Virgil Sweet. Crimes, grand larceny, embezzlement of federal funds, conspiracy. You got a heavy sheet, Virgil, Eldridge said. Grand larceny. They exaggerate, Virgil said. It was a reallocation of assets. The railroad has plenty of money. They just don't like sharing. Eldridge refolded the warrant. He put it in his own shirt pocket. This is the ticket, Eldridge said. Without this, I'm just a kidnapper. With it, I'm the law. You're a man with a piece of paper, Virgil said. That doesn't make you the law. The law is a system. It requires judges, juries, and jails. Out here, the law is whoever has the ammunition. Eldridge looked at the tin star pinned to Tate's vest. It was dented, scratched from years of leaning against bars and saddles. He unpinned it. The clasp was stiff. It came free with a small snick. He held the badge in his hand. It didn't weigh much, but it felt heavy. It felt like the promise Tate had extracted with his last breath. You going to wear it? Virgil asked. He sounded amused. Going to play dress up? I'm going to carry it, Eldridge said. To Yuma, along with you. He put the badge in his pocket, next to the warrant. You're a fool, Virgil said. Tate is dead. The driver is dead. The horses are dead. The universe is telling you to walk away. You take those cuffs off, you ride north, and you live to be an old man who lies about his adventures. And you? I go south, Virgil said. I disappear. Bishop never finds me. The railroad writes it off. Everyone wins. Except justice, Eldridge said. Justice, Virgil scoffed. Justice is a story poor people tell themselves, so they can sleep at night while the rich folks rob the bank. Bishop robbed the train. I robbed Bishop. Now you want to put me in a cage. That's not justice, Sample. That's irony. Eldridge stood up. He walked over to Virgil. Stand up, Eldridge said. Virgil stood. He was a head shorter than Eldridge, round and soft in the middle, but he held his ground. You really think you can get me to Yuma? Virgil asked. Through Bishop? Through the Apache? Through the heat? I think I can try, Eldridge said. Why? For the $10 reward. Because Tate asked me to, Eldridge said. And because men like Bishop shouldn't get what they want. And men like me. Men like you, Eldridge said, are just the baggage. He grabbed Virgil's arm. Let's get the horse, Eldridge said. We're burning daylight. I hate horses, Virgil muttered. They smell. They bite. And they have no appreciation for conversation. Then you'll get along fine, Eldridge said. I don't talk much either. He led Virgil toward the tangled mess of the horse team down the wash. Eldridge stopped. He raised his head. The wind had shifted. It was coming from the north now, blowing down the canyon. It brought the smell of sage and dust. Quiet, Eldridge said. What? Hush. Eldridge listened. He heard it. Faint. Rhythmic. Thump thump. Thump thump. It wasn't a heartbeat. It was hooves. Many of them. Riding hard on the hardpan above the canyon rim. Company, Eldridge said. Virgil's face lost its smirk. He went pale. Bishop, Virgil whispered. Unless the cavalry is making a house call, Eldridge said. He scanned the rim. The sun was low, blinding if you looked west, but the eastern rim was sharp against the sky. He saw the dust first, a plume rising like smoke. Then the silhouettes. Riders. 4, 5 of them. Reining in at the edge of the drop. They found the tracks, Eldridge said. Give me a gun, Virgil said. His voice was tight. Sample, give me a gun. You're a prisoner, Eldridge said. Prisoners don't carry iron. I'm a target, Virgil hissed. Bishop isn't here to rescue me. He's here to peel me. Then get behind the wagon, Eldridge said. He shoved Virgil toward the overturned chassis. Move. A rifle cracked from the rim. Pang. The bullet hit the iron tire of the wagon wheel, inches from Eldridge's head. It screamed off into the canyon. They see us, Eldridge said. He drew the Colt. He grabbed the Springfield from where he leaned it against the wheel. Get down, he told Virgil. Virgil scrambled into the dirt, pressing himself against the dead Marshal's legs. This is your fault, Virgil whimpered. We should have left 10 minutes ago. We're leaving now, Eldridge said. But we have to clear the road first. He levered the Springfield. He aimed at the rim. The badge in his pocket felt hot against his chest. He had the authority. Now he just needed the aim. Chapter 4. The second shot didn't hit the wheel. It hit the dead driver. The bullet slapped into the corpse with a wet thud, jerking the body as if the man were trying to wake up from a bad dream. They're thorough, Virgil said. He was pressed flat against the sand behind the overturned wagon chassis, his bowler hat crushed under his chest. I'll give them that. Bishop doesn't like loose ends. Eldridge Sample didn't answer. He rested the heavy octagonal barrel of the Springfield on the rim of the wagon wheel. He adjusted the rear sight. The sun was behind him now, dropping fast, which meant the men on the rim were looking into the glare. It was the only card he held. He saw movement on the skyline. A hat. A shoulder. Eldridge squeezed the trigger. Boom. The buffalo gun roared, bucking against his shoulder like a mule kick. A cloud of white smoke obscured his vision for a second. On the rim, rock shattered. A man yelled, scrambling back from the edge. That's a cannon, Virgil said. Do you have to make so much noise? It keeps their heads down, Eldridge said. He worked the lever. The brass casing flew out, spinning in the air, hot and shiny. He shoved a fresh cartridge into the breech. Sample. A voice drifted down from the rim. It was deep, confident. A voice used to shouting over train whistles. You down there. You're burning powder for nothing. That's Bishop, Virgil whispered. He sounds reasonable. Don't believe him. We just want the package. Bishop yelled. Give us the little man in the suit. You can ride away. We got no quarrel with a drifter. Eldridge sighted on a rock where the voice seemed to originate. I'm not a drifter. Eldridge shouted back. I'm a deputy U.S. Marshal. And the prisoner is federal property. Virgil looked at him. Deputy. You've had the badge for 5 minutes. Don't let it go to your head. Shut up, Eldridge said. Marshal. Bishop laughed. Tate's dead, cowboy. I saw him go down. You're just the guy who stopped to check the pockets. A volley of fire erupted from the ridge. 4 rifles opening up at once. Bullets hammered the wagon. Wood splintered. Iron rang. Dust puffed up in little geysers around Eldridge's boots. Eldridge didn't flinch. He waited for the rhythm. They were shooting fast, levering rounds without aiming, trying to chew the cover to pieces. He saw a muzzle flash from a notch in the rocks. He fired. The heavy slug smashed into the rock face. Dust sprayed. The firing from that position stopped. Check the horses, Eldridge told Virgil. What? The gray. And my bay. They're tied to the driftwood. If they get hit, we walk. If we walk, we die. I can't move, Virgil said. The air is full of lead. Crawl, Eldridge said. You're good at slithering. Check the lines. Make sure they aren't hit. Virgil cursed. He started to crawl backward, dragging his manacled hands through the sand, heading toward the spot where the horses were tied in the lee of the bank. Eldridge stayed at the wheel. He fired again. Boom. He was buying time. He was buying inches. But he couldn't hold them forever. Bishop had the high ground. He had the numbers. Eventually, he would send men down the flanks to enfilade the wash. Once they got the angle, the wagon was just a wooden box. They're fine, Virgil yelled from the brush. But they're dancing. They don't like the noise. Get the gray ready, Eldridge shouted. Lead him up here. Keep him low. Lead him. He's a horse, not a dog. He doesn't crouch. Eldridge fired 2 more shots, spacing them out. He wanted Bishop to think he had plenty of ammunition. He didn't. He had the box in his saddlebag, but the rifle only held 1 in the chamber. He reloaded. Bishop, Eldridge yelled. Turn around. The cavalry is due on patrol in 20 minutes. You'll be caught in the open. Nice try, Bishop shouted back. Cavalry is at Fort Apache chasing Geronimo. Nobody comes out here but lizards and fools. More shots. A bullet clipped the spokes near Eldridge's face, sending splinters into his cheek. It was getting too hot. Eldridge crab-walked backward. He kept the rifle up. He reached the horses. Virgil was holding the rope halter of the gray gelding. The horse was rolling its eyes, stomping. Eldridge's bay was pulling at the driftwood, trying to break free. Mount up, Eldridge said. Now. They're reloading. We have 10 seconds. Virgil looked at the gray. It was a workhorse, broad-backed and sweaty. I can't jump, Virgil said. My hands. Eldridge grabbed Virgil by the belt of his trousers and the collar of his expensive coat. He heaved. Virgil went up. He scrambled, kicking Eldridge in the chest, but he managed to straddle the animal. He grabbed the rope mane. Hang on, Eldridge said. He untied the bay. He swung into the saddle. Go, Eldridge yelled. Down the wash. Keep close to the wall. He slapped the rump of the gray horse. The gray bolted. It took off running, terrified by the gunfire and the strange weight on its back. Virgil screamed, clamping his legs around the barrel, bouncing like a sack of laundry. Eldridge spurred the bay. They tore out from the cover of the bank. There, a voice screamed from the rim. They're running. Gunfire erupted again. It wasn't aimed fire, it was desperate fire. Bullets kicked up sand behind the horses. A slug whined past Eldridge's ear like an angry hornet. Eldridge turned in the saddle. He didn't aim. He just pointed the Springfield back toward the rim and pulled the trigger. Boom. The noise was enough. The shooters on the rim ducked. Eldridge worked the lever one-handed, fighting the recoil and the horse. They hit the bend in the wash. The gray skidded, almost going down, but found its footing. Virgil was hanging off the side, his face buried in the horse's mane. They rounded the corner. The rock wall cut off the line of sight. The shooting stopped, replaced by the echo fading down the canyon. Eldridge didn't slow down. He kept the pace hard. He knew Bishop wouldn't stay on the rim. He would be mounting up, riding for the nearest descent to get into the wash and give chase. Pull up. Eldridge yelled at Virgil. Pull him up. Virgil didn't have reins. He had a rope halter. He hauled on it, sawing the horse's head back. The gray slowed to a trot, then a walk, blowing hard. Virgil slid back into the center of the horse's back. His hat was gone. His face was gray. "My hat," Virgil gasped. "I lost my hat." "You kept your head," Eldridge said. "That's a fair trade." "You don't understand," Virgil said. He looked frantic. "I need that hat." "We aren't going back for haberdashery, Virgil. Bishop is saddling up right now." "But—" "Ride," Eldridge ordered. "We need to get into the Badlands before they cut our sign." He looked back at the bend. Dust was settling. The wash was empty. But he could feel the pursuit. It was a pressure on the back of his neck. "Why didn't you give me a gun?" Virgil asked. "I could have shot back." "You're a thief, Virgil. Not a gunman. You'd have shot your horse or me." "I'm a good shot," Virgil insisted. "I practice." Shooting at bottles is different than shooting at men who are shooting back. Eldridge checked the loads in the Colt. He reloaded the Springfield. "That was Bishop," Eldridge said. "He wants you bad. He thinks I have the bonds." "Do you?" Virgil patted his chest. He checked his pockets. He looked bereft without the hat. "I have nothing," Virgil said. "Just a bruised tailbone and a kidnapping charge." "We're going south," Eldridge said. "Into the rocks. We lose them in the dark. And then we talk about the deal," Eldridge said. "But right now we ride." He kicked the bay. Virgil kicked the gray. They rode deeper into the shadow of the canyon, leaving the wreck and the dead men to the buzzards who were finally descending to eat. Chapter 5. The Badlands were a broken jaw of sandstone and shale, a place where the earth had snapped and left jagged edges pointing at the sky. The light was failing fast, turning the deep cuts between the rocks into pools of ink. Eldridge Sample kept the bay horse at a steady trot, weaving through the hoodoos. Behind him, the gray gelding followed on the lead rope, its hooves clattering on the loose stone. Virgil Sweet rode the gray like a sack of wet flour. He bounced with every step, his knees hiked up, his pinstripe trousers bunching at the calves. He held the rope mane with both manacled hands, his knuckles white. The bowler hat was jammed down low on his ears to keep it from flying off. "This animal," Virgil shouted over the wind, "has a spine like a rail splitter's wedge." Eldridge didn't look back. "He's a workhorse. He's built for pulling, not riding." "He's trying to saw me in half," Virgil said. "And the lack of a saddle is a distinct oversight in your planning." "Walking is softer," Eldridge said. "You want to walk?" Virgil clamped his mouth shut. He looked at the ground, passing beneath the gray's hooves. It was hard, unforgiving flint. He decided the horse was the lesser evil. They rode for another hour. The sun vanished completely, leaving a cold purple twilight. Eldridge found a cutbank where the wind couldn't reach, and pulled up. "We stop here," Eldridge said. He dismounted. He walked back to the gray and untied the lead rope. "Slide off," Eldridge said. Virgil tried. He swung a leg over, winced, and slid down the flank of the horse. His legs buckled when he hit the ground. He grabbed the horse's shoulder to stay upright. "My tailor is going to have a stroke," Virgil said, brushing dust from his coat. "This wool is ruined." Eldridge ignored the fashion report. He stripped the gear off the bay and rubbed the animal down. He checked the gray's hooves. They were sound. He gathered a handful of dry mesquite roots and built a small fire in the depression of the bank. It wasn't much heat, but it was light. Virgil sat on a flat rock across the fire. He held his cuffed hands out to the flames. The chain rattled. "You know," Virgil said, "this metal gets cold at night. Conducts the temperature right into the bone." Eldridge poured water from the canteen into the coffee pot. "Takes the heat too." Don't stick them in the fire. Virgil looked at Eldridge. He studied him the way a jeweler studies a diamond, looking for the flaw. He took a cigar from his vest pocket, his last one, and rolled it between his fingers. You're a practical man, Sample, Virgil said. I can see that. You know horseflesh. You know the trail. You handled Tate dying without blinking. Tate was a good man, Eldridge said. Tate was a government employee with a pension plan he didn't live to collect, Virgil said. That's the tragedy of the steady paycheck. You trade your life for a promise someone else keeps. He leaned forward. The firelight played on his round face, making his eyes look black and sharp. I operate differently, Virgil said. I believe in immediate returns. Is that why you stole the bonds? I acquired them, Virgil corrected. Bishop stole them. He robbed the train. He blew the safe. All I did was move the paper from column A to column B. And now Bishop wants to erase column B. Bishop is a brute, Virgil said. He thinks wealth is something you carry in a sack. He doesn't understand that wealth is leverage. Virgil held up the cigar. I need a light. Eldridge tossed him a lucifer match. Virgil struck it on the rock, lit the cigar, and took a long drag. He exhaled a cloud of expensive smoke that mixed with the smell of burning mesquite. Let's talk business, Virgil said. I'm not buying. You're selling, Virgil said. You just don't know the price yet. He rattled the chains. These cuffs, Virgil said. They're heavy. They slow us down. If Bishop catches up, and he will, I can't run. I can't fight. I'm just dead weight. That's the name of the job. It doesn't have to be, Virgil said. You have the key. I saw you take it off Tate. I have it. Use it, Virgil said. Take these off. Let me ride free. We get to Tucson, we part ways. You go drink your whiskey, I go to San Francisco. And the bonds? I keep the bonds, Virgil said. That's my retirement. I promised Tate I'd deliver you to Yuma. To rot in a cell. Virgil scoffed. For what? Embezzling from a thief. Who is the victim here, Sample? The railroad. They're insured. Bishop? He's a killer. The government? They waste more money before breakfast than I took in a lifetime. It's the law, Eldridge said. It's geometry, Virgil said. Look at the angles. You take me to Yuma, you get, what? A pat on the back. Maybe a $10 reward if Tate filled out the paperwork before he bled out. Virgil held up 5 fingers. $5,000, Virgil said. Eldridge looked at him. He poured coffee into a tin cup. 5,000, Virgil repeated. Cash. In your hand. The minute we hit civilization. You don't have $5,000, Eldridge said. You have a suit full of dust and a stolen horse. I have resources, Virgil said. I have lines of credit. You unlock these cuffs, you get me to a telegraph office, and $5,000 in gold is yours. Eldridge drank the coffee. It was bitter. That's a lot of money, Eldridge said. It's a ranch, Virgil said. It's a herd of cattle. It's a saloon with your name over the door. It's whatever you want it to be. All you have to do is turn a key. He leaned closer. The chains clinked softly. Think about it, Virgil urged. Tate is dead. He doesn't care. He's cooling in a wash 10 miles back. You don't owe him anything. Eldridge set the cup down. He looked at the fire. He looked at the darkness pressing in around them. I gave him my word, Eldridge said. So that's the currency I trade in, Eldridge said. Virgil stared at him. He puffed on the cigar, short, angry bursts of smoke. He shook his head, a look of genuine pity on his face. "You're a dinosaur," Virgil said. "You're extinct, and you don't even know it. Honor. A promise to a corpse. That's fairy tale stuff. It keeps me sleeping at night." "It keeps you poor," Virgil said. "And it gets you killed. Bishop doesn't care about your word. He'll shoot you just to get to me. You're risking your neck for a ghost." Virgil laughed. It was a dry, cynical sound. "Dead men don't tip, cowboy," Virgil said. "They just rot." Eldridge looked at Virgil. He saw the fear behind the arrogance. Virgil wasn't trying to buy his freedom. He was trying to buy his survival. He knew that as long as he was in irons, he was helpless. "Maybe," Eldridge said. "But live men talk too much." He stood up. He walked over to Virgil. Virgil tensed. He thought Eldridge was going for the key. He held his hands out, hopeful. Eldridge reached down. He checked the chain. He checked the lock mechanism. It was tight. "Get some sleep," Eldridge said. "We ride at first light." "You're turning it down?" Virgil asked, incredulous. $5,000? "I'm turning it down." "You're a fool." "I've been called worse," Eldridge said. "Usually by men who ended up behind bars." He walked back to his saddlebags. He pulled out the Winchester and laid it across his lap. Virgil sat there for a long time, staring at the fire. He smoked the cigar down until it burned his fingers, then tossed the stub into the coals. "You'll change your mind," Virgil muttered. "When Bishop starts shooting, you'll wish you took the money." "If Bishop starts shooting," Eldridge said, "you better hope I'm shooting back and not counting your money." He tipped his hat over his eyes. "Night, Virgil." The wind picked up, whistling through the rocks. It sounded like a train whistle, far off and lonely. Virgil Sweet pulled his knees to his chest, the chains rattling a cold lullaby, and wondered how much a man's word was actually worth when the bullets started flying. Chapter 6. The fire was a miserly thing, a handful of mesquite roots feeding a flame that offered more light than heat. It cast long, dancing shadows against the cutbank, turning Virgil Sweet's round face into a mask of hollows and ridges. Eldridge Sample sat on his saddle, the Winchester resting across his knees. He watched the dark beyond the firelight. He wasn't looking for Bishop yet. Bishop was a tracker, but he wasn't a ghost. He needed light to read sign. But the desert had other things that hunted at night, and most of them had teeth. Virgil shifted on his rock. The chain between his wrists clinked, a sharp, metallic sound that cut through the wind's low moan. "You're a hard man to do business with," Virgil said. He held his hands out to the weak flame, rubbing his palms together. "Most men hear the number 5,000, and they start planning their estate. You just pour more bad coffee." "Coffee keeps you awake," Eldridge said. "Money makes you sleep." "Money makes you comfortable," Virgil corrected. "There is a distinction. You should learn it." He looked at his suit. The pinstripes were coated in red dust, the knees torn from the scramble up the wash. He picked a burr off his sleeve with fastidious, irritated fingers. "You think I'm a bank robber," Virgil said. "Like Bishop. You think I ride into town with a bandana over my face and shoot the teller. You run with dogs, you get fleas," Eldridge said. "And you get shot at by the same people." "I don't run," Virgil said. "I calculate." Bishop is a blunt instrument. He's a hammer. Hammers are useful, but they can't pick a lock. And they certainly can't balance a ledger. Virgil reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out the silver cigar case. It was empty. He sighed, snapping it shut with a melancholic click. I was the bookkeeper, Virgil said. Eldridge looked at him. Gangs have bookkeepers? Successful ones do, Virgil said. You think robbing a train is just riding up and jumping on? It's logistics, Sample. It's payroll. It's bribes. It's fencing stolen goods at a percentage that doesn't insult your intelligence. Bishop can't count past 20 without taking off his boots. He needed someone to manage the overhead. So you managed it. I optimized it, Virgil said. I streamlined the operation. I set up accounts in Denver and Santa Fe. I made Bishop rich. Or richer than he deserved to be. And then you stole from him. Virgil smiled. It wasn't the charming smile he used when he wanted a light. It was a tight, private smile. The smile of a man who solved a puzzle nobody else even saw. The Union Pacific job, Virgil said. 3 weeks ago. Outside of Wilcox. Bishop hit the express car. He was looking for the payroll shipment. Gold coin. Silver certificates. Heavy stuff. He got it. He got the safe, Virgil said. We blew it in a box canyon north of the tracks. Bishop saw the sacks of coin, and his eyes rolled back in his head. He started divvying it up right there. 1 share for the shooter, 1 share for the holder, 2 shares for him. Virgil leaned forward. The firelight caught the shine of his eyes. He didn't look at the envelope, Virgil said. What envelope? The oilskin packet taped to the back of the cash drawer, Virgil said. Thick, heavy bond paper. Bishop tossed it aside. He thought it was just manifests. Schedules. Trash. But you looked. I always look, Virgil said. I picked it up while Bishop was weighing gold dust in his hand. I opened it. And there they were. The bonds, Eldridge said. Bearer bonds, Virgil whispered. The words sounded reverent. Union Pacific Railway expansion bonds. $500 a sheet. 100 sheets. Payable to the bearer. No name. No signature required. Just paper that turns into gold if you walk into the right bank. $50,000, Eldridge said. 50,000, Virgil agreed. And weightless. You can carry a fortune in your hatband. You can carry an empire in your sock. Bishop was loading down saddlebags with silver that broke the horses' backs. I just slipped the envelope into my coat. And you walked away. I waited, Virgil said. I waited until we got to the hideout. I waited until they were drunk. Then I saddled a horse and I rode out. Quiet. Civilized. Until Tate caught you. Tate got lucky, Virgil said, his face darkening. He caught me at a water station. I was careless. I was thinking about Paris. And Bishop? Bishop figured it out about 2 days later, Virgil said. When he tried to spend the silver and realized the split was light. Or maybe he sobered up and remembered the envelope. Either way, he did the math. He knows what I took. And he knows that $50,000 makes the gold he stole look like pocket change. Eldridge picked up a stick. He poked the fire. A shower of sparks went up. That's why he's chasing you, Eldridge said. He doesn't care about the brotherhood. He wants the paper. He wants the retirement fund, Virgil said. And he's a man who hates being smarter than everyone else in the room, only to find out he's the second smartest. Where are they? Eldridge asked. Virgil tapped the side of his head. Safe. Safe isn't a place. It is to me, Virgil said. I hid them. Before Tate caught me. I buried them in a spot that only I can find. Bishop can turn the territory upside down. He can sift the sand through a screen. He won't find them. Unless he asks you. He intends to ask me, Virgil said grimly. With a knife. And hot coals. And maybe a pair of pliers. Bishop isn't a conversationalist, Sample. He's an inquisitor. He'll peel me one layer at a time, until I tell him the coordinates. And then he kills you. And then he kills me, Virgil confirmed. Slowly. Because I made him look stupid. Virgil sat back. He rattled the cuffs again. So you see the dilemma, Virgil said. You take me to Yuma, you're doing Bishop's work for him. The prison isn't safe. Bishop has reach. He'll buy a guard. He'll buy the warden. I'll be dead in a week. Or you go to trial. There won't be a trial, Virgil said. There will be a stabbing in the shower. Or a rope over the wall. Bishop wants his money. He won't stop. He looked at Eldridge. $5,000, Virgil said again. 10%. A finder's fee. You unlock these cuffs, I lead you to the spot. I give you the cash. You ride away rich. I ride away alive. Eldridge looked at him. He saw the logic. It was clean. It was profitable. It made sense in a way that dying for a dead lawman's promise didn't. Paper burns, Eldridge said. What? Bearer bonds, Eldridge said. They're paper. If Bishop catches us, and he thinks you have them, he might just burn the wagon. Or burn you. I don't have them on me, Virgil said quickly. Too quickly. He touched his chest. I told you. They're buried. Eldridge watched the hand movement. It was a tell. A small, nervous check. You're a liar, Virgil, Eldridge said. I'm a businessman. You're a dead man walking, Eldridge said. And you're heavy. You weigh $50,000. That's a lot of weight to carry across a desert. Share the load, Virgil said. Take the money. Eldridge stood up. He walked to the edge of the light. He looked north, back the way they had come. He didn't see fires. Bishop was running dark. That meant he was close. Or he was circling. I don't want the money, Eldridge said. Everyone wants money, Virgil shouted. He stood up, the chain snapping tight. Don't give me that saintly act. You're a drifter. You're wearing a coat that's seen more dust than a floor mat. You want it. I want to sleep, Eldridge said. And I want to wake up without looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. You turn me in, you'll be looking over your shoulder anyway. Bishop will kill you just for spite. Maybe, Eldridge said. But he won't kill me for the bonds. Because I won't have them. He turned back to Virgil. Sit down, Eldridge said. You're making a mistake. Sit down. Virgil sat. He looked sulky. He looked like a child who had been denied a sweet. You hid them, Eldridge said. That's your story. That's the truth. We'll see, Eldridge said. But right now, you're the only map Bishop has. That keeps you alive. It keeps me alive too, as long as I'm the one holding the map. You think you can hold off 6 men? I held them off today. You got lucky. They were surprised. Tomorrow, they won't be surprised. They'll be angry. Eldridge kicked dirt onto the fire. The light died, plunging them into darkness. Get some sleep, Virgil. Tomorrow we find out if your luck holds out as well as your mouth. I don't sleep on rocks, Virgil muttered. You will tonight. Eldridge moved to his spot against the bank. He settled the rifle. He thought about the bonds. $50,000. It was a fortune. It was a ranch in Montana. It was a hotel in San Francisco. It was a death sentence. Bishop wasn't just chasing a rat. He was chasing his future. He would burn the territory down to get that paper back. Eldridge touched the badge in his pocket. It was cold. "Dead weight," Eldridge whispered. He closed his eyes, but he kept his ears open. He listened to the wind, and to the soft, nervous breathing of the man who was worth more dead than alive. Chapter 7. The slot canyon was a crack in the earth where the sun only visited for an hour at noon. The rest of the time, it was a tunnel of red shadow and trapped heat, narrowing until the riders had to go single file, their knees scraping against the sandstone walls. Eldridge Sample rode the bay horse in the lead. He kept his eyes on the strip of sky overhead, watching for silhouettes on the rim, but the walls were too high and too steep here. If Bishop was up there, he'd have to lean out far enough to fall to get a shot. Behind him, the gray gelding plodded along, head down, smelling the damp air that sometimes lingered in these deep cuts. Virgil Sweet sat the horse, with the grim determination of a man riding a torture device. The chains between his wrists clinked against the saddle horn. No, there was no horn. He was riding bareback on a blanket. He clutched the rope mane. "This is a dead end," Virgil said. His voice bounced off the rock, amplified and hollow. "I can feel it. The air is stagnant. We're riding into a bottle." "It's a cut," Eldridge said without turning. "Water carved it. Water goes somewhere." "Water goes into the ground," Virgil said. "Or it evaporates. Which is exactly what my patience is doing. We should have stayed in the open. I can't run in here." "You can't run anywhere with those cuffs," Eldridge said. "And in the open, Bishop has rifles. In here, he has to come at us one at a time." "He's coming," Virgil said. "I can hear the hooves. The echo carries." Eldridge heard it too. A low, rhythmic thrumming behind them. Not a gallop. The footing was too treacherous, but a steady, relentless trot. Bishop wasn't rushing. He knew the terrain. He knew the bottle. The canyon twisted sharply to the left, opening into a small, sandy amphitheater, before narrowing again into a chute that looked too tight for a horse. A massive boulder, fallen from the rim centuries ago, blocked half the entrance to the clearing. Eldridge pulled the bay up behind the boulder. "Get down," Eldridge said. "Finally," Virgil groaned. He slid off the gray, his legs rubbery. He leaned against the rock, dusting off his pinstripes. "My tailor in San Francisco is going to weep." This suit was Italian wool. "Tie the horses back there," Eldridge said, pointing to a scrub oak wedged into a fissure. Deep in the shadow. Virgil led the horses back. He moved surprisingly fast for a man complaining about his footwear. He tied them, then scuttled back to the boulder where Eldridge was checking the load in the Springfield. "He's close," Virgil whispered. "Close enough to talk to," Eldridge said. "Talk? You want to have a conversation with the man who just tried to turn our wagon into splinters?" "I want to buy time," Eldridge said. "And distance." "Bullets buy distance," Virgil said. "Give me a gun." "No." Eldridge peered around the edge of the boulder. The canyon floor back the way they came was empty for 50 yards, then it curved. Shadows stretched long. The light was failing up top, turning the red rock purple. A horse snorted around the bend. Shod hooves clattered on stone. Then they appeared. Bishop rode lead. He was a big man, heavy in the chest, wearing a duster that looked like it had been dragged through a grease trap. He rode a black stallion that looked mean. Behind him, 2 men rode single file. The rest of the gang must have been further back or watching the rim. Bishop saw the empty trail ahead. He saw the bottleneck. He pulled up. He scanned the shadows. He looked right at the boulder. "Sample." Bishop roared. The name slapped against the canyon walls. Sample. Sample. I know you're behind the rock, Bishop yelled. I can smell the horse sweat. You ran yourself into a corner, cowboy. Eldridge didn't answer. He rested the barrel of the Springfield on the stone. He aimed at the chest of Bishop's horse. He wouldn't shoot the man yet. He dropped the mount to block the trail. Come on out, Bishop said. His voice was reasonable, almost friendly. Give us the little man. We don't want you. You're just the delivery boy. Drop the package and ride away. I can't do that, Bishop, Eldridge called back. I signed a receipt. Bishop laughed. A receipt? From a dead Marshal? Tate's buzzard meat, son. His paper don't hold water out here. It holds with me, Eldridge said. You're a stubborn fool, Bishop said. Look at the ground. You got nowhere to go. That chute behind you. It pinches out in a mile. It's a box. You're trapped. Bishop nudged his horse forward a step. The men behind him unholstered their rifles. We can do this two ways, Bishop said. The easy way involves you riding out with your skin intact. The hard way involves me carving you up to get to Sweet. Virgil, crouched behind Eldridge, tugged on his coat. He's lying, Virgil whispered. He'll kill you the second you show your face. He doesn't leave witnesses. I know, Eldridge said. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out the dead Marshal's wallet. He took out the folded train schedule, a thick piece of paper, yellowish, folded into a rectangle. He held it up. Virgil, Eldridge whispered. Do you trust me? No, Virgil said. Not even a little. Good. Stay low. Eldridge stood up. He stepped out from behind the boulder. He left the rifle leaning against the rock. He stood in the open, 10 yards from Bishop. Bishop blinked. He hadn't expected the man to show himself. He raised his hand, signaling his men to hold fire. He wanted to see the surrender. Smart move, Bishop said. Where's Sweet? He's back there, Eldridge said. Praying. Send him out. In a minute, Eldridge said. He held up the folded paper in his left hand. You want the man, Eldridge said. Or do you want what he stole? Bishop went still. The horse shifted beneath him. What are you talking about? Bishop asked. The bonds, Eldridge said. Union Pacific. Bearer bonds. $50,000. Bishop's eyes narrowed. He looked at the paper in Eldridge's hand. He couldn't read it from this distance, but he could see the shape. He could see the color. Virgil talks when he's scared, Eldridge said. He told me about the envelope. He told me he hid it. He's a liar, Bishop said. He hid it in the desert. He hid it in his coat, Eldridge lied. He didn't trust the desert. He kept it on him, sewn into the lining. Eldridge waved the paper. I found it, Eldridge said. When I searched him. Bishop stared at the paper. Greed is a powerful lens. It makes a man see what he wants to see. Bishop wanted to see $50,000. Hand it over, Bishop said. His voice was tight. Hand it over and you walk. I don't think so, Eldridge said. He reached into his pocket with his right hand. He pulled out a lucifer match. He struck it on his belt buckle. It flared to life, a small orange flame in the twilight. He held the flame inches from the paper. Don't. Bishop yelled. The horse jumped as he jerked the reins. Are you crazy? I'm practical, Eldridge said. You shoot me, I drop the match. The paper burns. It's dry, Bishop. It'll go up in 2 seconds. Poof. $50,000. Gone. Bishop stared at the flame. He was sweating. He looked at his men, then back at Eldridge. He was doing the arithmetic. A bullet traveled fast, but fire traveled faster. You wouldn't, Bishop said. That's a fortune. It's paper, Eldridge said. To me, it's just fuel. I don't care about the money. I care about breathing. Put it out, Bishop said. Put the damn match out. Back off, Eldridge said. I can't back off. You got my property. Eldridge moved the flame closer. The corner of the train schedule curled, turning brown. Smoke rose. Back off. Bishop screamed. Back the horses up. The men behind him scrambled to reverse their mounts in the narrow canyon. Horses collided, whinnying. Further, Eldridge said. To the bend. Get out of sight. Bishop glared at him. His face was red, veins pulsing in his neck. He looked like he wanted to eat the gun in his hand. You burn that, Bishop hissed, and I will peel the skin off your bones while you watch. Go, Eldridge said. The flame touched the paper. A small edge caught. Bishop wheeled his horse. Move. Bishop shouted at his men. Move back. They retreated. They clattered back around the bend, disappearing into the shadows. Eldridge watched the empty canyon. He shook the match out. He blew on the paper, extinguishing the tiny smolder on the corner. He stepped back behind the boulder. He slumped against the stone, letting out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Virgil was staring at him. His mouth was open. You are insane, Virgil whispered. I'm convincing, Eldridge said. That was a train schedule, Virgil said. I saw you take it from Tate's wallet. Bishop didn't know that. He thinks you have the bonds, Virgil said. He looked horrified. He thinks you have the money. That keeps him from shooting me, Eldridge said. That makes you the target, Virgil said. Before, he just wanted me. Now he wants you. You just painted a bullseye on your chest. I painted it on the paper, Eldridge said. He shoved the schedule back into his pocket. As long as he thinks I have the bonds, he won't rush us. He'll be careful. He won't risk a stray bullet hitting the cash. He'll siege us, Virgil said. He'll wait us out. He'll try, Eldridge said. But he doesn't know the canyon. And he doesn't know that the chute back there isn't a dead end. It isn't. I checked the map in my head, Eldridge lied. He hadn't checked anything, but he knew water flow. It narrows, but it climbs. It cuts through to the next mesa. You're guessing. I'm gambling, Eldridge said. Get the horses. He's going to find out, Virgil said, scrambling up. Eventually, he's going to figure out it's a bluff. Eventually is tomorrow's problem, Eldridge said. Right now, we have a head start. He grabbed the Springfield. Move, Virgil. Before he realizes smoke doesn't smell like money. They led the horses into the narrow chute, squeezing through the rock, leaving the empty amphitheater behind. Outside, around the bend, Bishop sat on his horse, listening. He didn't burn it, Bishop said to his lieutenant, a man named Cole. He blew it out. I saw the smoke stop. What now, boss? Cole asked. We rush him? No, Bishop said. He's crazy enough to do it. We wait. We follow. We let him get tired. Bishop smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. He thinks he bought a ticket out of here, Bishop said. He just bought a ticket to a funeral. Stay on him. But don't shoot the coat. Shoot the legs. Bishop turned his horse. I want that paper, he whispered. In the chute, Eldridge felt the weight of the lie in his pocket. It was lighter than gold, but it carried a hell of a lot more heat. Chapter 8. The sun hammered the badlands until the rocks radiated heat like a cast-iron stove left on the fire too long. The air didn't move, it just hung there, heavy and thick, sucking the moisture out of the horses' hides and the men's mouths. Eldridge Sample rode the bay horse at a walk. He kept his hat pulled low, his eyes slitted against the glare. The bay was stumbling now, dragging its toes in the dust. It needed water. They all did. The canteens were light, sloshing with the hollow sound of the last pint. Behind him, Virgil Sweet slumped on the gray gelding. He had stopped complaining about his suit an hour ago. Now he was just trying to stay upright. His bowler hat was jammed down to his ears, and his face was a mask of red dust and gray fatigue. The chains between his wrists rattled with a dull, monotonous rhythm. "How far?" Virgil croaked. His voice was a dry leaf scraping pavement. "Mile," Eldridge said. "Maybe 2. The tank is in the next draw." "You said that a mile ago." "I lied. Kept you moving." Virgil managed a weak glare. "I hate you, Sample. I want that on the record." "Noted." They rounded a spine of rock that jutted out of the earth like a broken rib. The draw opened up ahead of them. It was a shallow depression where the runoff from the winter rains collected, channeled by a low stone wall built by ranchers who had given up on this country 10 years ago. In the center of the depression sat a galvanized steel tank. It was rusted, dented, but it stood upright. "Water," Virgil whispered. The gray horse smelled it. It lifted its head, ears pricking forward. It picked up the pace, ignoring the heat. "Easy," Eldridge said. He held the bay back. He scanned the rim of the draw. It was quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No insects buzzing. Just the heat shimmering off the metal tank. "It's open ground," Virgil said, urging the gray forward. "But I don't care. If Bishop shoots me while I'm drinking, at least I'll die wet." Eldridge grabbed the halter rope of the gray. He pulled the horse up short. "Wait," Eldridge said. "Wait for what?" "An invitation." "Smell the air," Eldridge said. Virgil sniffed. He wrinkled his nose. "Smells like sulfur. And something sweet." "Rot," Eldridge said. He dismounted. He tied the bay to a dead mesquite bush. He drew the colt. "Stay here," Eldridge ordered. He walked toward the tank. The ground around it was churned up. Hoofprints. Shod horses. Fresh ones. He reached the rim of the tank. He looked in. The water was there. A foot deep, green with algae, stagnant. Floating in the middle of it was a coyote. It was bloated, its belly distended like a balloon ready to burst. The fur was slipping off the hide. Flies buzzed in a black cloud over the carcass. Eldridge holstered the gun. He stood there, looking at the dead animal. He looked at the tracks around the tank. He walked back to the horses. "Well?" Virgil asked. "Is it cool? Is it clear?" "It's soup," Eldridge said, "with a dead coyote for flavor." Virgil stared at him. He licked his cracked lips. "Dead?" "Shot," Eldridge said, "and thrown in. Recently. The blood is still wet on the rim." Virgil looked at the tank. He looked at the horizon. "Bishop," Virgil said. "He beat us here," Eldridge said. "He knew we'd head for the tank. It's the only water for 20 miles. Why didn't he wait?" Virgil asked. "He could have set up an ambush. Shot us when we rode in." "He doesn't want to shoot us," Eldridge said. "Not yet. He wants the paper." Eldridge took off his hat and wiped his forehead. "He's hurting us, Virgil. He's poisoning the wells. He wants us weak. He wants us crawling. A man dying of thirst doesn't fight back. He trades. He trades anything for a cup of water. Virgil slid off the gray horse. He landed hard, stumbling. He walked toward the tank. "Don't," Eldridge said. "I have to look," Virgil said. He reached the tank. He peered over the edge. He gagged, putting his manacled hands over his mouth. "My God," Virgil whispered. "That is vile." "It's cholera," Eldridge said. "Or worse. You drink that, you're dead by sunset." Virgil turned around. He leaned against the rusted metal. He looked desperate. "I'm a federal prisoner," Virgil said. His voice rose, cracking with hysteria. "I have rights. I demand hydration. You are responsible for my well-being, Sample. It's in the regulations." "The regulations don't cover poisoned wells," Eldridge said. And Bishop didn't read the manual. Eldridge walked to the bay horse. He poured the last of his canteen into his hat. It wasn't much. A pint. He offered it to the bay. The horse drank it in 2 slurps. "Hey!" Virgil yelled. "What about me?" "The horse carries the weight," Eldridge said. "You just sit there." "I'm worth $50,000. "Right now, you're worth less than the horse," Eldridge said. "Because the horse can get us to San Feliz. You can't." "San Feliz?" "Mining town," Eldridge said. "South. About 15 miles. They have deep wells. Bishop can't poison a mine shaft." 15 miles? Virgil slumped against the tank. "I can't make 15 miles. My throat is closing up." "Then you stay here," Eldridge said. "With the coyote." He checked the gray horse. It was suffering. Its head hung low, eyes dull. It needed water bad. Eldridge walked to the tank. He used his knife to cut the buttons off his shirt sleeve. He tore a strip of cloth from the tail of his shirt. He dipped the cloth into the tank, avoiding the carcass. He soaked it. He walked back to the gray. He squeezed the rag into the horse's mouth. "Don't swallow," Eldridge told the horse. "Just wet the tongue." He did it again. "You're giving poison to the horse," Virgil said. "I'm giving him moisture," Eldridge said. "A little bacteria won't kill him before we get to town. But the heat will." He squeezed the rag into his own mouth. He spat the water out immediately. It tasted of rot and death, but it wet the membranes. He handed the rag to Virgil. "Suck on it," Eldridge said. "Don't swallow. Spit it out." Virgil took the rag. He looked at it with disgust. Then he put it in his mouth. He sucked greedily. He spat. "It tastes like a grave," Virgil said. "It buys us an hour," Eldridge said. He mounted the bay. "Get on the grave, Virgil. We have to move before Bishop circles back to see if we took the bait." Virgil climbed onto the horse. It was a struggle. He had no strength left in his legs. He lay across the animal's neck for a moment, gathering himself, before swinging his leg over. "He's playing with us," Virgil said. "Bishop. He's enjoying this." "He thinks he's winning," Eldridge said. "He is winning." "He's winning the morning," Eldridge said. "The day isn't over." Eldridge scanned the ridgeline one last time. He saw nothing. No dust. No glint of metal. Bishop was gone. He had done his work. He was riding to the next water hole, or sitting in the shade somewhere, waiting for them to drop. "San Feliz," Virgil said. "Is there whiskey there?" "It's a ghost town," Eldridge said. "Mostly. But there might be a few holdouts. And where there's miners, there's whiskey." "I'll buy the bar," Virgil said. "I'll buy the whole town. Just get me there." "Keep your money," Eldridge said. "Just keep your seat." He turned the horse south. They rode away from the tank. The smell of the dead coyote lingered in the air, a sweet, sickly reminder that the desert was a board game, and Bishop was moving the pieces. Eldridge touched the pocket where the train schedule lay folded. The fake bonds. "Hold on, Bishop," Eldridge whispered. "I'm bringing the paper." He kicked the bay into a slow, conserving walk, heading for the mining town that was their last chance before the desert swallowed them whole. Chapter 9. The moon was a sliver of bone in a sky that looked like spilled ink. It offered just enough light to see the ground immediately in front of your boots, but not enough to tell if the shape in the distance was a rock or a man with a rifle. Eldridge Sample stopped the bay horse in the lee of a wind-scoured butte. The animal blew out a breath that sounded like a rattle. It was done. The gray gelding behind them was worse. It stood with its head hanging to its knees, trembling with a fatigue that water couldn't fix. "We stop," Eldridge said. Virgil Sweet slid off the gray. He didn't complain about his suit this time. He hit the dirt and sat down right where he landed, his back against the horse's front leg. The chains between his wrists clinked, a sharp, lonely sound in the vast silence. "We aren't at the town," Virgil said. His voice was a raspy whisper. "We push them anymore, we're walking," Eldridge said. "And I don't think your Italian leather is rated for 15 miles of obsidian." Eldridge dismounted. He stripped the saddles. He didn't have grain, but he rubbed the horses down with a handful of dry sage. It stimulated the blood flow, kept them from stiffening up. He built a fire. A small one, hidden in a depression of the rock. He used the last of the mesquite roots. It put out a low blue flame that hissed when the sap boiled. Virgil crawled over to the fire. He held his hands out. The cuffs reflected the light, 2 bands of dull iron binding him to the bad luck he had created. "That water," Virgil said, licking his lips. "It tastes like copper pennies and dead dog." "It's wet," Eldridge said. "Be grateful." Eldridge sat on his saddle, the Winchester across his lap. He took out his tobacco pouch. He rolled a cigarette, his fingers moving by feel. He lit it with a twig from the fire. The smoke tasted good. It cut the taste of the stagnant water. "You sleeping?" Virgil asked. "I'm resting my eyes." "You should sleep," Virgil said. "I'll watch. Bishop comes, I'll yell." "You'll yell goodbye as you run for the ridge," Eldridge said. "I can't run," Virgil said, lifting his wrists. "I'm tethered. I'm dead weight. Remember?" Eldridge tipped his hat brim down. He watched Virgil through the slit of space between the felt and his nose. Virgil waited. He watched Eldridge's breathing. He waited until the rhythm settled into a slow, steady cadence. Then he moved. It was subtle. Virgil shifted his position, turning his shoulder to the fire so his hands were in shadow. He hunched over, pretending to shiver. Eldridge saw the glint. Virgil had something in his hand. A thin, stiff piece of metal. A wire. He must have pulled it from the wreckage of the wagon back in the wash, or maybe he snagged it from the gray's makeshift bridle. It was a piece of baling wire, about 3 inches long. Virgil inserted the wire into the keyhole of the left cuff. He worked it. His face was a mask of concentration, sweat beading on his forehead despite the chill. He moved the wire with delicate microscopic twists. Scritch. Click. He was good. He wasn't just poking at it. He was feeling for the tumblers. He was visualizing the mechanism inside the iron. Eldridge didn't move. He let him work. He wanted to see if the man had the skill to back up the talk. Virgil bit his lip. He twisted the wire. Click. The ratchet released. The cuff popped open. Virgil let out a breath that was half sob, half laugh. He massaged his wrist, rubbing the red skin where the iron had bitten. He looked at Eldridge. He looked at the darkness beyond the fire. He looked at the horses. He inserted the wire into the right cuff. "You got a light touch, Virgil," Eldridge said. Virgil froze. The wire slipped from his fingers and fell into the dust. Eldridge pushed his hat back. He leveled the Colt he had drawn while Virgil was staring at the lock. "Don't," Eldridge said. Virgil stared at him. He looked at the open cuff dangling from his left wrist. He looked at the gun. I was just checking the mechanism," Virgil stammered. "It felt loose." "It looked loose," Eldridge said. "Especially when you popped it." Eldridge stood up. He walked over to the prisoner. "Stand up." Virgil stood. He looked defeated. The hope that had flared up for 10 seconds died, leaving him looking smaller and rounder than before. "It was a good pick," Virgil said sullenly. "A standard ratchet lock. Bishop uses better ones on his safe boxes." "Bishop isn't the government," Eldridge said. He reached out. "Give me the wire." Virgil pointed to the dirt. "I dropped it." Eldridge picked it up. A rusted piece of steel wire, bent at the tip. A tension wrench, and a pick in one. "Resourceful," Eldridge said. He took Virgil's left hand. He snapped the cuff back on. Click. He squeezed it. He tightened it 1 notch past where it had been. Then he tightened the right one. Virgil winced. "Hey. That cuts." "It's supposed to," Eldridge said. "It's a reminder." "A reminder of what?" "That you aren't the one holding the keys." Eldridge checked the chain. It was solid. "Nice try, Virgil," Eldridge said. "Really? But sound carries out here. Even the sound of a tumbler falling." "I could have run," Virgil said. "I had one hand free. I could have grabbed the gray." "You could have," Eldridge agreed. "But you didn't. You went for the second cuff. You're greedy. You wanted both hands free. You wanted it perfect." "I wanted to ride without looking like a convict." "Greed kills the deal," Eldridge said. "Just like with the gold." He tossed the wire into the fire. It glowed red, then lost its shape. "Sit down," Eldridge said. "And keep your hands where I can see them. If I hear metal on metal again, I tie you to the horse's tail." Virgil sat. He slumped against the rock. He looked at his wrists. "You're enjoying this," Virgil said. "You like being the warden." "I like sleeping," Eldridge said. "And I can't sleep if I have to listen for picklocks." "I offered you money," Virgil said. "I offered you $5,000. You prefer playing jailer in the dirt." "The money is imaginary, Virgil. The dirt is real." Eldridge walked back to his saddle. He settled in. "San Feliz is 5 hours," Eldridge said. "Try to conserve your energy. You'll need it for the walking if the horses quit." Virgil didn't answer. He just stared at the fire, listening to the wind, wondering if Bishop was out there in the dark, or if the man with the badge was the bigger problem. Eldridge closed his eyes. He kept the Colt in his hand. The prisoner was slippery. He was smart. And he was desperate. That made him dangerous. Almost as dangerous as the men hunting them. One cuff, Eldridge thought. He almost made it. He respected the skill. But respect didn't unlock the chains. "Don't get creative, Virgil," Eldridge whispered. "It keeps you up at night." The fire died down. The cold crept in. And the two men waited for the sun to bring the next round of bad news. Chapter 10. San Feliz didn't look like a town. It looked like a pile of lumber that had been dropped from a great height and left to rot where it landed. It sat on a shelf of rock overlooking a dry wash, clinging to the edge of the badlands like a barnacle on a ship hull. There was one street, rutted and filled with windblown sand. The buildings lining it were gray skeletons, their paint scoured away by 20 years of grit. Windows were boarded up or shattered, staring out at the empty desert like black eyes. Eldridge Sample rode the bay horse down the center of the street. The animal's head hung low, its hooves dragging in the dirt. Behind him, the gray gelding plodded along, tethered to the saddle horn, carrying a passenger who had stopped complaining 3 miles back because his tongue was too swollen to form the words. "This is it," Virgil Sweet croaked. He sounded like a frog trapped in a well. "San Feliz," Eldridge said. "It looks finished." "It's resting," Eldridge said. He scanned the buildings. A livery stable with a collapsed roof. A hotel with no front door. A bank that was just a brick facade, propped up by beams. But halfway down the street, a sign creaked on rusted hinges. "Mercantile and Spirits." And next to it, a squat building made of adobe and stone with iron bars on the windows. "The jail." "We stopped there," Eldridge said. He pulled up in front of the jailhouse. He dismounted. His legs were stiff, his knees popping audibly in the silence. He walked to the water trough in front of the mercantile. It was dry, filled with trash and a dead tumbleweed. "Service is terrible," Virgil muttered, sliding off the gray. He landed hard, his knees buckling, but the chain between his wrists caught on the saddle horn and held him up. Eldridge untangled him. "Inside," Eldridge said. "The store." "The jail." Virgil looked at the stone building. "You have got to be kidding. We just rode 15 miles through hell, and you want to put me back in a box?" "I want to put you somewhere Bishop can't grab you while I'm doing business," Eldridge said. "And I want to know where you are." He shoved Virgil toward the door. The door was heavy oak, reinforced with iron straps. It wasn't locked. It swung open with a shriek of rusted hinges that echoed down the empty street. The interior was cool, smelling of stone dust and old urine. A desk sat in the corner, covered in a layer of sand thick enough to write a name in. A ring of keys hung on a nail behind it. There were 2 cells. Iron bars set into the stone floor and ceiling. Eldridge grabbed the keys. He tried one in the first cell door. It stuck. He jiggled it. He forced it. Clack. The lock turned. He pulled the door open. "In," Eldridge said. Virgil stood in the doorway. He adjusted his bowler hat, trying to salvage some dignity from a suit that was now more dirt than wool. "This is inhumane," Virgil said. "I'm dehydrated. I'm exhausted. I have chafing in places I didn't know existed." "There's a cot," Eldridge said, pointing to a canvas stretcher suspended from the wall by chains. "And a bucket. That's more than you had at the water tank." "I have money," Virgil said. "I have influence." "You have a warrant," Eldridge said. "Get in." Virgil sighed. He stepped into the cell. He walked to the cot and sat down gingerly. Dust puffed up around him. Eldridge slammed the door. He locked it. He pocketed the keys. "I'll be back," Eldridge said. "Bring whiskey," Virgil called out. "And a lawyer." Eldridge walked out. He stood on the boardwalk for a moment, listening. The wind whistled through the gaps in the buildings. A piece of tin roofing flapped somewhere. But under that, there was a sound. A chair scraping. It came from the mercantile next door. Eldridge loosened the Colt in his holster. He checked the street again. Still empty. But it felt watched. Towns like this were never completely dead. They just had ghosts that carried shotguns. He walked to the mercantile. The windows were dusted over, opaque with grime. He pushed the door. A bell jingled overhead. The inside was dim, cluttered with shadows. Shelves lined the walls, mostly empty, but a few cans and boxes remained, gathering dust. At the back of the room, a bar had been set up on a couple of barrels. A man sat behind the bar. He was cleaning a fingernail with a knife that looked like it had skinned a buffalo. He was bald, with a face like a dried apple doll, wrinkled and brown. He wore a dirty apron over a flannel shirt. He didn't look up when Eldridge walked in. "We're closed," the man said. "Door was open," Eldridge said. "Latches broke." Eldridge walked to the bar. He rested his hands on the wood. "I need water," Eldridge said. "For 2 horses and 2 men. And I need grain." The man looked up then. His eyes were milky, roomy, but they tracked Eldridge's movement. He looked at the gun on Eldridge's hip. "Water costs," the man said. "Deep well. Pumps hard to work." "I got money." "Paper." The man spat on the floor. "Don't take paper. Government script ain't worth the ink." "Gold," Eldridge said. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a $10 eagle. He placed it on the bar. The man stared at the coin. He reached out a hand that trembled slightly. He covered the coin. He slid it off the bar and bit it. "Real?" the man said. "I need .44 to 40 ammo," Eldridge said. "And food. Anything that isn't weevil eaten." The man stood up. He put the coin in his pocket. "I got some beans," the man said. "Canned peaches. Got a box of shells under the counter, been there since the war. Might fire, might not. I'll take them." The man moved slow, shuffling. He put 2 cans of peaches, a sack of beans, and a dusty box of cartridges on the bar. "Water's out back," the man said. "Tank's full. Help yourself. But don't waste it." Eldridge nodded. He picked up the goods. "Anyone else in town?" Eldridge asked. "Just me," the man said. "And crazy old Pete. He lives in the mine office. Shoots at shadows." "Telegraph office?" "Closed," the man said. "Operator died last winter. Freeze got him." "Lines still up?" "Lines are there," the man said. "Machines there. Just nobody to tap the key." Eldridge processed this. He knew Morse code. Not fast, but enough to send a distress signal. Enough to tell the army where Bishop was. "Thanks," Eldridge said. He turned to leave. "You running from something?" the man asked. Eldridge stopped. "Why do you ask?" "You got the look," the man said. "Shoulders tight. Eyes moving. And you locked your friend in the jail." "He's not a friend," Eldridge said. "Don't matter," the man said. "Whatever's chasing you, it usually catches up. Especially here. This town is a dead end. Road washes out 2 miles south. I'm just passing through." "Nobody passes through San Feliz," the man said. "They just stop." Eldridge walked out. He took the supplies to the jail. Virgil was lying on the cot, staring at the ceiling. "Room service?" Virgil asked. Eldridge slid a can of peaches and a canteen of fresh water. He'd filled it at the tank out back through the bars. "Dinner?" Eldridge said. Virgil sat up. He grabbed the peaches. He used the opener on his knife, the one Eldridge had missed or let him keep, to pry the lid. He drank the syrup. "Heaven," Virgil said. "Absolute heaven." Eldridge sat at the desk. He opened the box of ammo. He started reloading the loops on his belt. "We got a problem," Eldridge said. Besides the accommodations? Roads washed out south, Eldridge said. We're in a box. Bishop will like that, Virgil said, wiping syrup from his chin. He likes boxes. Makes the shooting easier. There's a telegraph, Eldridge said. Key is still there. If the lines are hot, I can call for help. Yuma isn't far by wire. You know how to talk on the wire? I know enough. Eldridge stood up. I'm going to check the lines, Eldridge said. You stay put. I'm locked in a cage, Sample. Where exactly do you think I'm going to go? The opera. Just keep quiet. If you hear shooting, get under the cot. Comforting, Virgil said. Eldridge walked out of the jail. The sun was down now. The street was a tunnel of gray light. The wind had picked up, rattling the loose boards of the empty buildings. He looked at the telegraph office. It was a small shack near the bank. The wires overhead hummed in the wind. That was a good sign. If they were humming, they were tight. He started to walk toward it. He stopped. A dog barked. Not a wild dog. A domesticated bark. Short, sharp. It came from the edge of town. The north edge. The way they had come. The storekeep said it was just him and Crazy Pete. Did Pete have a dog? Maybe. Or maybe the dog belonged to someone else. Eldridge stepped into the shadow of the bank. He watched the street. Dust swirled. A tumbleweed rolled past, scratching against the wood. Then he saw them. Riders. They weren't riding down the street. They were filtering in between the buildings. Moving slow. Moving quiet. 4, 5, 6 of them. Bishop had arrived. He hadn't ridden down the main road. He had circled. He had cut off the retreat. Eldridge pressed his back against the brick wall. He was 50 yards from the jail. 50 yards from the telegraph. And Bishop was in the middle. Well, Eldridge whispered. So much for the quiet drink. He checked the Colt. 6 rounds. He had the box in his pocket. He looked at the jail. Virgil was in there. Trapped. If Bishop found him, it was over. Eldridge needed a distraction. He needed noise. He looked at the mercantile. The old man was in there. If the shooting started, he was dead. Eldridge made a choice. He couldn't go forward. He couldn't go back. He had to go through. He stepped out of the shadow. He leveled the Colt at the nearest rider, a man in a duster riding a roan. Get down, Eldridge roared. The man turned. He looked surprised. Eldridge fired. The shot shattered the evening silence. The man fell from the saddle. The street exploded. Eldridge turned and ran. He didn't run for the jail. He ran for the telegraph office. He dove through the door, just as the wood frame splintered under a hail of lead. He was pinned. But he was on the wire. Now he just had to hope the line was listening. Chapter 11. The floor of the telegraph office was covered in a layer of sand that had drifted in through the gaps in the siding, and right now, Eldridge Sample was intimately acquainted with the grit. He lay flat on his belly, cheek pressed against the rough planks, while lead-jacketed bullets turned the front wall into toothpicks. Thwack. Splinter. Zing. The air above his head was alive with wood shards and dust. The shooting stopped as abruptly as it had started. Silence rushed back into the shack, heavy and ringing. Eldridge didn't move. He held the Colt tight, waiting for the rush of boots. He listened. He heard the wind rattling the tin roof. He heard a horse blow air somewhere in the street. Sample. Bishop's voice. It came from behind the livery stable, protected and loud. "You comfortable in there?" Eldridge ignored him. He crawled. He crab-walked across the floor to the desk in the corner. The telegraph key sat there, a brass cricket mounted on a wooden block. Beside it were the battery jars, dusty glass filled with copper sulfate that had likely evaporated years ago. He reached up. He touched the key. It was stiff. He pressed it. Click. The sound was dull. There was no spark. No hum of electricity. Eldridge checked the wires running up the wall. They looked intact. He followed them with his eyes to the insulator above the window. The copper wire went through the wall and out into the twilight. Eldridge peeked over the sill. The wire dangled in the wind, cut clean about 3 feet from the building. The end swayed back and forth, tapping against the siding like a finger. Tap. Tap. "You didn't think I'd leave the line open, did you?" Bishop called out. "I've been robbing trains for 10 years, cowboy. First thing you do is cut the wire." Eldridge slid back down to the floor. He holstered the Colt. He felt a cold knot in his stomach that had nothing to do with the temperature. "No signal," Eldridge whispered. "You can tap on that key all night," Bishop yelled. "Nobody's listening but God, and he don't send the cavalry." Eldridge looked around the shack. It was a death trap. One room, thin wood walls that wouldn't stop a determined spitball, let alone a .44 to .40 slug. There was no back door. Just a window that looked out on an alley that was likely crawling with Bishop's men. He looked at the jailhouse across the street. It was stone. Adobe thick enough to stop a buffalo gun. Iron bars. Water. And Virgil Sweet. It was 30 yards away. 30 yards of open street. "We can wait you out," Bishop said. "Or we can burn you out. Wood burns real nice in this wind." Eldridge checked his ammo loops. He had plenty of shells. But shells didn't put out fires. He had to move. Now. Before Bishop found a torch. He crawled to the door. He kicked it open. A rifle crackled from the livery roof. The bullet kicked up dirt on the threshold. "Stay inside," Bishop shouted. "We ain't done talking." Eldridge pulled back. He looked at the window on the alley side. It was small, high up. He dragged the desk over. He climbed up. He used the butt of the Colt to smash the glass. He didn't climb out. He took off his hat. He put it on the barrel of the Colt. He raised the hat into the window frame. Bang! Bang! 2 shots from the alley. They were watching the back. "Pinned," Eldridge said. He looked at the battery jars on the desk. Heavy glass. Acid residue. He grabbed one. It weighed 5 pounds. He moved back to the front door. He waited. He listened to the rhythm of the wind. He threw the jar. He tossed it out the door, high and to the left, toward the water trough in front of the mercantile. The glass shattered against the trough. Crash. It sounded like a window breaking. Or a man diving. The shooters reacted. Gunfire erupted, chewing up the water trough and the front of the store. Eldridge ran. He didn't run left. He ran straight. He stayed low, diving off the porch, hitting the dirt street rolling. "He's moving," someone screamed. Eldridge scrambled. He fired 2 shots blindly toward the livery to keep their heads down. He hit the boardwalk in front of the jail. He grabbed the iron handle of the door. Locked. He had locked it. "Damn it," Eldridge hissed. Bullets walked up the boardwalk toward him. Thud. 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 He fumbled for the keys in his pocket. His fingers felt like sausages. He found the ring. He jammed the big iron key into the lock. It stuck. "Open!" Eldridge yelled, twisting it. A bullet hit the stone doorframe next to his ear, spraying rock dust into his face. The lock turned. Eldridge threw the door open. He dove inside. He kicked the door shut with his boot heel and threw the bolt just as a heavy slug slammed into the wood from the outside. He lay on the floor, breathing hard. The air in the jail smelled of dust and fear. "You're back," Virgil said. The prisoner was sitting on his cot, holding a can of peaches. He looked calm, but his knuckles were white where he gripped the tin. "Did you send the telegram?" Virgil asked. "Lines cut," Eldridge said, standing up and brushing the dirt off his coat. "Bishop was ahead of us." "So no cavalry?" "No cavalry." "And the town?" "Surrounded," Eldridge said. "Bishop has the street. He has the alley. And he has a lot of ammunition." He walked to the window. It was barred, set high in the wall. He peered out from the side. The street was empty again. The dust from the shooting was settling. The sun had completely vanished, leaving the town in a gray, flat dusk. "What now?" Virgil asked. "Now we wait," Eldridge said. "Stone walls are better than wood. He can't burn this down." "He can starve us out," Virgil said. "Or thirst us out." "We have water," Eldridge pointed to the bucket. "And peaches. We can last a few days." "A few days?" Virgil looked horrified. "In this suit." "Bishop isn't going to wait a few days," Eldridge said. "He's impatient. He wants the bonds. He wants me." "Same thing." Eldridge checked the Winchester he had left leaning against the desk. He loaded it. "He'll try to talk first," Eldridge said. "He'll try to make a deal. When that fails, he'll try to breach the door. And then we shoot anything that comes through." "We?" Virgil asked. "I don't have a gun." "You're better off without one," Eldridge said. "You'd shoot your foot off." "I am a crack shot," Virgil lied. "I once hit a playing card at 20 paces. Paper doesn't shoot back." Eldridge dragged the heavy oak desk across the room. He pushed it up against the door. "A barricade." "Get comfortable, Virgil," Eldridge said. "The hotel is closed. This is the only room in town." Outside the wind howled. "Sample." Bishop's voice echoed down the street. "You in there?" Eldridge moved to the window. "I'm here, Bishop. And I'm comfortable. Got a roof. Got water." "You got a tomb," Bishop shouted. "There's no way out. The road south is washed out. The road north is mine." "I like the view," Eldridge called back. "I'm going to give you 10 minutes," Bishop said. "Think about your options. You give me Sweet, you walk. You don't. Well, I guess we find out how long adobe holds up against dynamite." Eldridge stepped back from the window. "Dynamite," Virgil whispered. "He has dynamite." "He robs trains," Eldridge said. "He blows safes." "Yeah, he has dynamite." "That wasn't in the brochure," Virgil said. He looked at the thick walls. Suddenly, they didn't look thick enough. "He's bluffing," Eldridge said. "He uses dynamite. He risks blowing up the bonds. Remember? I told him I had them." "You told him you had them," Virgil said. "That means he can blow me up." "If he blows you up, he can't ask you where the rest are. You said you had them on you. In the schedule." "I said I found the bonds," Eldridge said. "I didn't say I found all of them. Bishop is greedy. He won't risk destroying $1 if he thinks he can get it all." Eldridge sat on the floor, his back against the wall, the rifle across his knees. 10 minutes, Eldridge said. He looked at Virgil. You better hope I'm a good poker player, Virgil. Because the stakes just went up. Chapter 12. The 10 minutes stretched into 20. The wind didn't let up. It leaned against the adobe walls of the jailhouse, whistling through the cracks in the mortar like a tea kettle that had boiled dry. Eldridge Sample sat on the floor, his back against the stone, the Winchester resting across his thighs. He watched the door. The heavy oak desk he had dragged over acted as a wedge, jamming the handle, but wood splinters under sustained pressure. Virgil Sweet sat on the cot. He had stopped eating the peaches. He was turning the empty can in his hands, round and round, the tin scraping against his fingernails. He's quiet, Virgil said. I don't like it when he's quiet. It usually means he's lighting a fuse. He's thinking, Eldridge said. Bishop isn't a dynamiter by trade. He's a thief. He wants the goods intact. He wants me dead. He wants the money first. Dead doesn't pay the rent. Eldridge stood up. He moved to the side of the window, peering through the iron bars at an angle. The street was a tunnel of gray dust. The sun was gone, dragging the last of the light with it behind the western peaks. Sample. Bishop's voice boomed from the darkness near the livery. Time's up. You send out the package. Eldridge didn't answer. He checked the street. He looked for movement in the shadows of the mercantile. I know you're in there, Bishop yelled. And I know you ain't alone. I saw the storekeep. I know about the old man in the mine office. Bishop paused. He let the silence hang for a beat. Citizens of San Feliz. Bishop shouted. His voice changed pitch. It wasn't a threat anymore. It was an invitation. I know you're listening. I know you're hiding in your rat holes. He's making a speech, Virgil whispered. He loves speeches. Listen to me. Bishop called out. This man, this drifter, he's holding a federal fugitive. A man who stole from the railroad. A man who stole from honest folks. I stole from him, Virgil muttered. There's a distinction. I represent the aggrieved party, Bishop lied smoothly. I'm here to collect. And I'm willing to pay for cooperation. Eldridge saw movement across the street. The door to the mercantile cracked open an inch. $5,000. Bishop yelled. Gold coin. To the man who helps me flush them out. You want to die in this dust bowl? Or do you want to retire to Tucson with money in your pocket? The mercantile door opened wider. 5,000, Bishop repeated. Bring me the man in the suit. Or bring me the drifter's head. I don't care which. Just open that door. Eldridge watched the mercantile. A figure stepped out onto the boardwalk. It was the storekeep. The man who had sold him the beans and the bad ammo. He held a scattergun in his hands. He looked nervous, licking his lips, his eyes darting toward the darkness where Bishop waited. Another shape emerged from the alley beside the bank. A man in rags, beard down to his belt, holding a rusty pickaxe handle and a Colt Navy that looked older than the town. Crazy Pete. Two of them, Eldridge said. The militia, Virgil said. We're doomed. They're hungry, Eldridge said. And they're stupid. The storekeep stepped into the street. He looked at the jailhouse. He raised the shotgun. Hey, the storekeep yelled. You in there? Stranger. Eldridge stayed away from the window. Go home, old man. He's lying to you. $5,000, the storekeep said. His voice shook, but his grip on the gun was tight. That's real money. That buys a lot of water. He won't pay you, Eldridge called back. He'll shoot you the second you open the door. You're just cover. I don't see him shooting, the storekeep said. I see him offering. Crazy Pete shambled into the middle of the street. He waved the pistol. Gold, he shrieked. I want the gold. You hear that, Sample? Bishop shouted from the dark. The town has spoken. They want justice. They want to get killed, Eldridge said. The storekeep took a step closer. He leveled the shotgun at the jail window. Throw out the guns, the storekeep yelled. Send out the little man. We don't want to hurt you. You fire that weapon, Eldridge said, his voice flat and hard, and I will cut you in half. Go back to your store. The storekeep hesitated. He looked at the dark livery stable where Bishop was hiding. He looked at the grim stone face of the jail. Greed warred with survival instinct. Greed won. Pete, the storekeep yelled. Check the back. Break the window. Pete cackled. He ran down the alley, disappearing around the corner of the jail. The storekeep racked the slide of the shotgun. Clack, clack. I'm coming in, the storekeep screamed. He fired. Boom. The buckshot slammed into the heavy oak door. It didn't penetrate, but the noise was deafening in the small stone room. Dust rained down from the ceiling. He's shooting. Virgil yelled, diving off the cot. He scrambled under the bed frame. The civilians are shooting. Stay down, Eldridge said. He moved to the window. He didn't want to kill the storekeep. The man was a fool, but he wasn't Bishop. Eldridge leveled the Winchester. He aimed high, at the top of the doorframe of the mercantile across the street. He fired. The bullet smashed into the wood, sending splinters flying. The storekeep flinched, ducking. He fired the second barrel, blindly at the jail. Ideally, the shot went wide, chipping the stone facade. From the alley, the sound of glass breaking. Pete. The back window. Virgil screamed from under the cot. He's coming in the back. Eldridge spun around. The rear window was small, barred high up near the ceiling. A hand reached through the broken glass. A dirty hand, holding the rusty Colt Navy. Pete pulled the trigger. Bang. The shot went into the floor. Eldridge didn't shoot the man. He stepped to the side of the window. He reached up with the barrel of the Winchester. He jabbed it through the bars, hard. He felt the steel connect with bone. Pete howled. The pistol clattered into the cell. My hand. The devil bit my hand. Pete dropped out of sight, wailing in the alley. Eldridge turned back to the street. The storekeep was reloading. He was fumbling with shells, his hands shaking. Keep it up. Bishop yelled from cover. Keep the pressure on. You get him, you get the gold. Bishop wasn't moving. He was letting the town do the bleeding. Eldridge looked at the door. The desk was holding, but the wood around the lock was splintering from the shotgun blast. Another hit like that, and the integrity would go. Virgil, Eldridge said. I'm not here, Virgil said from the floor. I'm a hallucination. Get up. Why? Because if they breach the door, I can't watch both sides. Eldridge walked to the desk. He grabbed the keys from his pocket, the ones he had taken from the Marshal. I'm unlocking the cell, Eldridge said. To let me go. To put you to work. He unlocked the cell door. It swung open. Virgil crawled out. He looked at the window. He looked at the door. He looked at the gun on the floor, Pete's Colt Navy. Pick it up, Eldridge said. Virgil looked at the gun. He looked at Eldridge. You said I'd shoot my foot off. Aim higher, Eldridge said. The storekeep is out front. Bishop is in the livery. Pete is crying in the alley. I need eyes on the back. You want me to shoot Pete? I want you to make sure he doesn't come back with a torch. Virgil picked up the gun. He held it like it was a dead rat. He checked the cylinder. It's dirty, Virgil said. Action feels gritty. It shoots, Eldridge said. Now, get to the back wall. Watch the window. If you see a face, pull the trigger. This is against the Geneva Convention, Virgil muttered, but he moved to the back wall. Outside, the storekeep had reloaded. He was shouting something about his retirement. He fired again. Boom. The door shuddered. The desk groaned, sliding an inch across the floor. He's getting closer, Eldridge said. He moved to the front window. He rested the Winchester on the sill. He saw the storekeep. The man was in the middle of the street now, emboldened by the lack of return fire. He was raising the shotgun for another go. Behind him, in the shadows of the livery, Eldridge saw movement. Bishop's men. They were using the distraction. While the storekeep drew fire, they were moving up the flanks. 2 men running low, heading for the sides of the jailhouse. Flankers, Eldridge said. He shifted his aim. He tracked one of the running men. He fired. The man dove into the dirt, rolling behind a water trough. Missed. They're moving up, Eldridge said. We can't stay here. You said stone walls were good. Virgil yelled. They're good until you're surrounded, Eldridge said. Bishop is tightening the noose. He's using the locals to burn our ammo and keep our heads down while he sets the table. Sets the table for what? For the main course. Eldridge looked around the room. Stone. Iron. Wood. We need to leave, Eldridge said. The door is blocked, Virgil said. By a desk and a maniac with a shotgun. We aren't going out the front, Eldridge said. He looked at the back wall. It was solid adobe. But near the floor, where the foundation settled, the mud bricks were crumbling. We going to dig? Virgil asked. We're going to blast, Eldridge said. With what? You told Bishop you didn't have dynamite. I don't, Eldridge said. But I have kerosene. He pointed to the lantern hanging on the wall, and the can of fuel sitting in the corner next to the bucket. And, Eldridge said, looking at the heavy iron stove in the corner, I have pressure. You're going to blow up the jail, Virgil said. With us inside. Just the back wall, Eldridge said. Ideally. Ideally, Virgil repeated. I hate that word. The storekeep fired again. The door splintered. Daylight, no, moonlight showed through the crack. Get the kerosene, Eldridge ordered. And get ready to run. Chapter 13. The iron stove in the corner of the cell block was a squat black belly of cast iron that hadn't seen a fire in 10 years. It sat cold and heavy against the rear adobe wall. Its flue pipe rusted through near the ceiling. Eldridge Sample kicked the door of the firebox open. It squealed, rusted hinges fighting the movement. It's a bomb, Virgil Sweet said. He was standing in the middle of the cell, holding the rusty Colt Navy he'd picked off the floor like it was a dead fish. You are building a bomb in a room the size of a closet. It's directional, Eldridge said. He uncapped the kerosene can. He poured a generous amount onto the old ash inside the stove, then shoved the can itself, still half full, right into the firebox. Iron is thick. Adobe is soft. Physics takes the path of least resistance. Physics usually involves shrapnel, Virgil said. I'm allergic to shrapnel. Then get behind the mattress. Eldridge slammed the iron door shut. He jammed a piece of kindling into the latch to keep it from blowing open too soon. Outside, the shooting had stopped, which was worse than the noise. It meant they were reloading or moving up. The heavy oak door at the front of the jail was a ruin of splintered wood and twisted iron straps. Daylight, no, moonlight, was visible through jagged gaps where the buckshot had chewed through. "They're coming," Virgil said. He looked at the door. "They aren't going to shoot it anymore. They're going to kick it in." "I know," Eldridge said. He walked over to Virgil. He looked at the rusty pistol in the con man's hand. "That thing fires?" Eldridge asked. "Pete fired it," Virgil said. "Into the floor. So it works at least once." "Let me see it." Virgil handed it over. Eldridge checked the cylinder. Percussion caps. Old ones. The nipples were corroded. One chamber was fired. The others looked like they had been loaded during the Lincoln administration. "Junk," Eldridge said. "It'll blow up in your hand before it hits a barn." He tossed it onto the cot. He looked at the front door. He looked at the stove. He needed time. The fire needed to heat the can. The vapor needed to expand. It wasn't instant. It was a pressure cooker. "I can't watch the door and the stove," Eldridge said. He holstered his own Colt. He picked up the Winchester. He worked the lever, checking the brass in the chamber. Then he handed the rifle to Virgil. Virgil took it. The weight of it surprised him. He held it awkwardly across his chest. "What is this?" Virgil asked. "It's a Model 1873, Eldridge said. "Holds 15 rounds. There's one in the pipe. You pull the trigger, you work the lever. Repeat until empty." Virgil stared at the gun. He stared at Eldridge. "You're arming me," Virgil said. "I'm a federal prisoner." "You're a deputy," Eldridge said. "For the next 10 minutes. Or until we blow up." He stepped closer. He invaded Virgil's space, looming over the smaller man. "Listen to me, Virgil. Bishop is coming through that door. When he does, he isn't going to ask for your autograph. He's going to kill us both to get the paper." "I know." "So we have a deal," Eldridge said. "The alliance." "What are the terms?" "I give you the gun," Eldridge said. "You shoot Bishop. You shoot the storekeep. You shoot anything that tries to come through that door." Eldridge's eyes were hard, blue flint in the dim light. "But if you turn that barrel toward me," Eldridge said, "if you think about double-crossing me to buy a pass, I will kill you. I will put a knife in your throat before you can twitch your finger. You understand?" Virgil swallowed. He gripped the rifle tighter. He looked at the door, where the wood was groaning under the pressure of a shoulder on the other side. "I understand," Virgil said. "Self-preservation is my primary motivator." "Good. Get to the desk. Rest the barrel on the top. Don't aim. Just point and shoot." Virgil scrambled to the overturned desk. He crouched behind it, leveling the Winchester at the ruined door. Eldridge moved to the stove. He lit a lucifer match. He shoved the match through the draft vent at the bottom of the firebox. Whoosh! The kerosene soaked into the ash cot. A dull roar started inside the iron belly. "It's lit," Eldridge yelled. "Cover!" He dove behind the cot, dragging the mattress over him. Virgil didn't duck. He was watching the door. The heavy oak planks bowed inward. A boot kicked through a weak spot. "Heave!" a voice shouted outside. 1, 2, heave. The doorframe cracked. The door flew open, crashing back against the stone wall. 3 men surged into the opening. The storekeep was in the lead, shotgun raised. Behind him were two of Bishop's men, dusters flapping. "There!" the storekeep screamed. Virgil squeezed the trigger. Boom! The rifle bucked. The bullet hit the storekeep in the chest. It knocked him backward into the men behind him. The shotgun discharged into the ceiling, bringing down a rain of plaster. "Keep shooting!" Eldridge yelled from the floor. Virgil worked the lever. Clack, clack. He fired again. Boom! He missed the men, but he hit the doorframe, sending splinters flying into their faces. Bishop's men scrambled back, dragging the dead storekeep with them. They hadn't expected a wall of lead. They thought they were rushing a man with a pistol and a prisoner in cuffs. "They have a rifle," one of the bandits yelled from the boardwalk. "Sweet's got a gun." "Suppress them," Bishop roared from across the street. Gunfire erupted from the street, pouring into the jailhouse. Bullets pinged off the iron bars, chipped the stone walls, thudded into the oak desk. Virgil huddled behind the desk, squeezing his eyes shut every time a slug hit the wood. He fired blindly over the top. Boom! Clack, clack. Boom! "I'm running out of bullets," Virgil screamed. "Make them count," Eldridge shouted. He looked at the stove. It was vibrating. The iron was turning a dull red. The roar inside was building, a high-pitched whine like a locomotive boiler about to burst. "Get down, Virgil," Eldridge yelled. "Now." Virgil fired one last shot. He dropped the rifle and dove flat, covering his head with his arms. Eldridge curled into a ball behind the cot. The stove blew. It wasn't a firecracker. It was a concussion. Ka-woom! The cast iron firebox disintegrated. The pressure, having nowhere to go, took the path of least resistance. It hammered the back wall of the jailhouse. The adobe bricks, old and crumbling, couldn't take the shock. The wall blew out. Dust and smoke filled the room instantly. A hole the size of a wagon appeared in the rear of the jail, opening onto the dark alley. Eldridge was up before the debris stopped falling. He grabbed the mattress and threw it aside. He grabbed Virgil by the collar. "Go." Eldridge choked on the dust. "Out the back." Virgil grabbed the Winchester. He scrambled through the rubble, coughing, his eyes watering. They tumbled out into the alley. The cool night air hit them. "My ears," Virgil yelled. "I can't hear." "You don't need to hear," Eldridge shouted, shoving him. "You need to run." Inside the jail, the fire from the kerosene was spreading, licking at the dry floorboards. Bishop's men were shouting out front. They blew themselves up. "Get in there." Eldridge grabbed Virgil's arm. "The livery," Eldridge said. "Bishop's horses. Come on." They ran down the alley, two shadows in the smoke, leaving the burning jail behind. The alliance had held for 5 minutes. Now came the hard part. Chapter 14. The alley was a throat full of smoke, coughing up dust and debris from the hole where the back wall of the jailhouse used to be. Eldridge Sample dragged Virgil Sweet through the gray haze. Virgil was stumbling, his legs rubbery, his hands clamped over his ears. He wasn't moving fast enough. Eldridge shoved him hard. Virgil stumbled forward, tripping over a discarded crate and sprawled in the dirt. He rolled over, looking up at Eldridge with eyes wide and white in the soot-stained face. He shouted something, but the words were lost in the ringing that filled Eldridge's own head like a church bell that wouldn't stop tolling. Eldridge grabbed Virgil's coat collar. He hauled him up. He pointed down the alley toward the livery stable at the far end of town. "Move." Virgil nodded. He understood the gesture. He grabbed the Winchester Eldridge had given him, clutching it by the barrel like a club. They ran. Behind them, the jailhouse was a furnace. The kerosene had done its work, turning the dry timber of the floor and roof into a bonfire. The orange glow lit up the swirling dust, casting long, frantic shadows against the backs of the buildings. Voices shouted from the street. "They're in the alley. Cut them off. Water. Get the bucket line. Forget the fire. Find the drifter. Bishop." His voice cut through the chaos, deep and commanding. He wasn't panicking. He was organizing. Eldridge kept close to the wall of the mercantile. He checked the load in the Colt as he ran. 5 rounds. He had the box in his pocket, but reloading on the run was a good way to drop bullets in the dirt. They reached the end of the alley. The livery stable loomed ahead, a dark barn with a high-peaked roof. Next to it was the corral. Eldridge pulled up. He grabbed Virgil and pulled him into the shadow of a rain barrel. He looked at the corral. It wasn't empty. Bishop's horses were there. 6 of them. Big, corn-fed animals tied to a picket line, strung between 2 posts. They were dancing, spooked by the explosion and the smell of smoke, jerking their heads against the ropes. And there was a guard. A man in a duster stood by the corral gate. He was watching the fire at the jail, his rifle resting on his shoulder. He was distracted, watching the show, wondering if he should run to help or stay put. Eldridge looked around. He needed a way to clear the gap. A freight wagon sat near the rear doors of the livery. It was parked at the top of the slight incline that served as a loading ramp. It was loaded with hay bales and barrels of pitch, supplies for the mines that had never been delivered. "Stay here," Eldridge yelled into Virgil's ear. Virgil shook his head. "I can't hear you," he screamed back, too loud. Eldridge put a finger to his lips. He pointed at the ground. "Stay." Virgil crouched, hugging the rifle. Eldridge moved toward the wagon. He kept the livery between him and the guard at the corral. He reached the wagon. He checked the wheels. They were chocked with blocks of wood. He looked at the cargo. Hay, pitch, dry wood. He climbed up the spokes. He pulled a lucifer match from his pocket. He struck it on the iron rim. He held the flame to a loose wisp of hay sticking out of a bale. It caught instantly. The fire climbed the bale, eager and bright. It licked at the pitch barrel. Eldridge jumped down. He moved to the rear wheels. He kicked the chocks out. The wagon groaned. It settled. Gravity took hold. It started to roll. Slowly at first, the iron tires crunching in the gravel. Then it picked up speed. It rolled down the incline, heading straight for the gap between the livery and the corral, heading toward the street where Bishop's men were gathering. The hay was blazing now, a rolling torch lighting up the night. "Fire!" the guard at the corral yelled. He spun around, raising his rifle. "Runaway wagon." The guard didn't look at the alley. He looked at the burning juggernaut bearing down on him. He scrambled out of the way, diving into the dirt. The wagon crashed through the corral fence. It smashed the rails to kindling. It kept going, careening into the street, spilling burning hay across the road like a river of lava. "Now!" Eldridge yelled. He grabbed Virgil. They sprinted for the horses. The guard was on the ground, scrambling to get up. He saw them coming. He tried to bring his rifle to bear. Eldridge didn't break stride. He fired one shot on the run. Bang! The bullet hit the dirt in front of the guard's face, spraying grit into his eyes. The man flinched, rolling away, covering his head. Eldridge reached the picket line. The horses were pulling back, terrified by the burning wagon and the gunfire. He pulled his knife. He slashed the lead rope of a big roan stallion. "Get up," Eldridge shouted at Virgil. Virgil stood there, staring at the horse. It was tall. It was angry. It was dancing sideways, kicking up dust. "I can't," Virgil screamed. "It's too big." Eldridge sheathed the knife. He grabbed Virgil by the belt and the seat of his pants. He lifted him. "Grab the horn." Virgil grabbed the saddle horn. He swung a leg over, landing hard in the saddle. The roan reared, pawing the air. Virgil screamed, clutching the mane, losing his stirrups before he even found them. Eldridge slashed the rope of a black mare next to the roan. He swung into the saddle. He looked at the other 4 horses. "Bishop walks," Eldridge said. He waved his hat. He slapped the rump of the nearest horse. "Hya. Get." The remaining horses broke. They tore loose from the cut line, scattering into the darkness, running away from the fire and the noise. "There they are," a voice roared from the street. "Bishop." He was standing near the burning wagon, silhouetted by the flames. He had a rifle raised. He fired. The bullet whined past Eldridge's head. "Ride." Eldridge slapped the rump of Virgil's roan. The roan bolted. It took off like a shot, heading for the open desert behind the town. Virgil held on for dear life, bouncing, his coattails flapping. Eldridge spurred the mare. She leapt forward, chasing the roan. More shots from the street. A volley of lead chased them into the dark. They hit the scrub brush. The ground was uneven, treacherous, but the horses were fresh. They were Bishop's best mounts, grain-fed and strong. They ate up the ground. Eldridge looked back. The town of San Feliz was a receding glow. The jailhouse fire had spread to the mercantile. The wagon was burning in the street. It looked like the end of the world, contained in a single valley. He checked Virgil. The little man was still in the saddle, leaning forward over the roan's neck, riding with the desperate grace of a sack of potatoes tied to a rocket. They rode for a mile. 2 miles. The sounds of the town faded, replaced by the wind and the thud of hooves. Eldridge pulled up. "Slow down," he yelled. Virgil didn't slow down. He couldn't. He didn't have the reins. He was just holding the horn. Eldridge spurred the mare. He pulled alongside the roan. He reached out and grabbed the cheek strap of the bridle. He pulled the horse's head down. The roan slowed. It fought him for a second, then dropped to a trot, then a walk. It blew hard, shaking its head. Virgil sat up. He was gasping, his face pale in the starlight. His bowler hat was gone, lost in the escape. "My ears," Virgil said. He touched the side of his head. "They're popping." "That means they're working," Eldridge said. "You blew up the jail," Virgil said. He sounded accusing. "You actually blew it up." "I blew the wall," Eldridge said. "The rest was structural failure." "You set a wagon on fire." "Distraction." "You stole Bishop's horse." "Transportation," Eldridge said. "And now Bishop is walking." Eldridge looked back at the glow on the horizon. Bishop wouldn't be walking long. He would round up the scattered horses. Or he would steal the mounts from the dead deputies. No, there were no deputies, just the storekeep. He would find a way. Men like Bishop always found a way. "We have a lead," Eldridge said. "Maybe 2 hours. Maybe till dawn, if the horses ran far enough." "Where are we going?" Virgil asked. "West," Eldridge said. "To the rail line. We follow the tracks to Yuma." "Yuma," Virgil said. He spat dust. "You're still on that?" "I still have the key," Eldridge said. "And I still have the badge." "You have a stolen horse and a fugitive," Virgil said. and $1,000 on your head. Price of doing business. Eldridge checked the saddlebags on the black mare. He hoped Bishop kept them stocked. He opened the flap. Jerky, a flask of whiskey, a box of shells, and a coil of rope. Bishop packs light, Eldridge said. He tossed the jerky to Virgil. Dinner. Virgil caught it. He looked at it. I miss the peaches, Virgil said. Eat, Eldridge said. We ride all night. I can't, Virgil said. My legs are chafed raw. My back is broken. You can ride or you can walk, Eldridge said. But we aren't stopping. Bishop is angry now. He isn't going to offer you $5,000 next time. He's going to offer you a knife. Eldridge turned the mare west. Virgil sighed. He bit into the jerky. He kicked the roan, following the man who had blown up a town just to keep a promise to a corpse. You're a maniac, Sample, Virgil said. I'm efficient, Eldridge said. They rode into the silence of the desert, two shadows on stolen horses, putting miles between them and the fire. Chapter 15. The adrenaline faded like cheap whiskey, leaving behind a headache and the cold realization that they were alone in the desert with two stolen horses and no water. Eldridge Sample slowed the black mare to a walk. The animal was blowing hard, its coat slick with sweat that smelled of fear and exertion. Beside him, the big roan stallion dropped its head, its breathing ragged. Virgil Sweet slumped in the saddle. He looked smaller without the bowler hat. His pinstripe suit was shredded, the knees torn out, the coat flapping open to reveal a vest missing half its buttons. He wasn't holding onto the horn anymore. He was just sitting there, staring at the space between the horse's ears with the expression of a man who had just watched his house burn down. We stop, Eldridge said. He pulled up in the shadow of a rock formation that looked like a stack of pancakes. It offered a break from the wind, which had turned cold enough to bite through sweat-soaked shirts. Virgil didn't argue. He slid off the roan. He hit the ground and didn't try to stand. He just sat in the dirt, his manacled hands resting on his knees. Eldridge dismounted. He checked the horses. They were blown but sound. Bishop kept good stock. He walked over to Virgil. He handed him the flask of whiskey he'd found in the saddlebag. Drink, Eldridge said. Virgil took the flask. He stared at it. He didn't uncork it. It's gone, Virgil whispered. We got away, Eldridge said. Bishop is walking. We have horses. We have a lead. Not the lead, Virgil said. The hat. Eldridge crouched. He rolled a cigarette, using the last of his tobacco. He lit it, shielding the flame with his hat. You're mourning a hat, Virgil. You just survived a fire, a shootout, and a stampede. You can buy a new hat in Yuma. I can't buy that hat, Virgil said. He uncorked the flask. He took a long pull. He coughed, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. You don't understand, Virgil said. You think I'm vain. You think I'm worried about fashion. I think you're in shock. I'm broke, Virgil said. He looked at Eldridge. His eyes were dark holes in his dirty face. The bonds, Virgil said. They aren't buried. Eldridge paused. The cigarette smoke curled around his face. What? There is no hole in the desert, Virgil said. There is no map. I didn't hide them in a cave. I didn't bury them under a cactus. He tapped the top of his bare head. They were in the hat, Virgil said. Eldridge stared at him. He thought about the bowler. It was a dusty, unassuming piece of felt. You wore them? Eldridge asked. Sewn into the liner, Virgil said. Behind the sweatband. $50,000 in high-grade paper. Folded flat. I wore the fortune on my head, Sample. Every step of the way. Virgil let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. I carried it right past Tate, he said. I carried it into the cage. I carried it through the ambush. And then I dropped it. Like a fool. Like a clumsy child. Eldridge took a drag of his cigarette. He looked back toward the glow of San Feliz on the horizon. You lost $50,000 on the trail, Eldridge said. It fell off, Virgil said miserably. When the horse bucked, I felt it go. I tried to grab it. And Bishop is back there. Bishop is back there, Virgil agreed. Walking the track. Looking for sign. He'll find it, Eldridge said. It's a black hat in the dark, Virgil said, grasping at a straw. Maybe he misses it. Maybe he rides right past it. Bishop tracks like an Apache, Eldridge said. He'll see it. He'll pick it up. He'll look inside. And then he'll know, Virgil said. He'll know you don't have anything left to trade. Eldridge stood up. He walked to the horses. He checked the cinch on the mare. The dynamic had shifted. It wasn't just a chase anymore. It was a race against a realization. If Bishop found the hat, he had the money. He didn't need Virgil. He would hunt them down just for sport, or he would turn around and ride for Mexico. We have to go back, Virgil said. Eldridge turned. What? Virgil scrambled to his feet. The chains rattled. We have to go back, Virgil said. His voice was frantic. Before he finds it. It's sitting right there on the trail. Just outside of town. We aren't going back, Eldridge said. It's $50,000. Virgil shouted. Sample, listen to me. We split it. 50-50. $25,000. That's a ranch. That's a life. We just ride back, pick it up, and disappear. We ride back, we ride into 6 guns, Eldridge said. They're on foot. We have the horses. They have rifles, Eldridge said. And they're angry. You think Bishop is just standing there? He's organizing. He's coming. We can beat him to it. No. Eldridge walked over to Virgil. He pushed him back down onto the rock. Sit, Eldridge said. You're throwing away a fortune. I'm keeping my skin, Eldridge said. The money is gone, Virgil. Bishop has it, or the wind has it. Either way, it's not yours anymore. Virgil stared at him. He looked like he was going to cry. Or hit someone. You don't get it, Virgil whispered. That money, it was my exit. It was my way out of the life. Without it, I'm just a thief in cuffs. You're alive, Eldridge said. That's a start. It's not enough. Virgil drank from the flask again. He drained it. He threw the empty metal bottle against the rocks. Clang. You're a fool, Sample, Virgil said. A self-righteous, dirt-poor fool. You could have been rich. I've been rich, Eldridge said. It didn't fit. He looked at the stars. We rest 2 hours, Eldridge said. Then we move. We stick to the plan. Yuma. Yuma, Virgil spat. Prison. Poverty. Safety, Eldridge said. If Bishop has the money, maybe he stops chasing. Maybe he counts his winnings and goes home. Bishop doesn't stop, Virgil said. He holds grudges. He'll come for us. Just to settle the score. Then we'll be ready. Eldridge walked away from the fireless camp. He found a spot where he could watch the back trail. He sat down, the Winchester across his lap. He thought about the hat lying in the dirt. $50,000. A piece of felt worth more than the town they had just burned down. It was a hell of a thing to lose. He looked at Virgil. The con man was sitting with his head in his hands, rocking back and forth. He was grieving. Not for the dead Marshal. Not for the chaos. But for the paper. Dead weight, Eldridge thought. The money was gone. The leverage was gone. All that was left was the man. And the man was starting to look at Eldridge, not like a savior, but like the only thing standing between him and a second chance at the hat. Eldridge thumbed the hammer of the rifle. "Don't do it, Virgil," Eldridge whispered to the dark. "Don't get any ideas." But he knew it was too late. The ideas were already there, festering in the silence of the loss. Chapter 16. Chapter 16. The desert night had teeth. It bit through the canvas coat Eldridge Sample wore, and gnawed on the bones of the man shivering in the dirt 5 feet away. Eldridge sat with his back against a slab of sandstone, his legs stretched out, ankles crossed. His hat was pulled down over his eyes, the brim resting on the bridge of his nose. To anyone watching, he looked like a man deep in the slumber of the exhausted. He wasn't sleeping. He was listening. He listened to the wind hissing through the creosote. He listened to the horses shifting their weight, the leather of the saddles creaking as the animals rested. And he listened to the chains. Clink, clink. Virgil Sweet was moving. It was a slow movement. Careful. The sound of iron links sliding against each other, muffled by a sleeve or a hand. Eldridge kept his breathing steady. Slow, deep rhythm. The rhythm of sleep. He felt the vibration in the ground before he heard the boots scrape. Virgil was crawling. The con man was desperate. Desperation made men stupid, but it also made them bold. Virgil had 50,000 reasons to go back down that trail, and only one reason to stay, the man with the badge. The scuffling stopped. Eldridge cracked one eye open beneath the brim. Virgil was crouching 3 feet away. In the starlight, his face was a pale moon of concentration. He wasn't looking at Eldridge's pockets for the keys. He was looking at Eldridge's chest. Virgil raised his hands. The cuffs were still tight, the chain short. He brought his wrists together. He shook his right arm. A sharp, mechanical snap echoed in the silence. Something slid out of his sleeve. It caught the starlight. Short. Silver. A derringer. Over-under barrels. .41 rimfire. A gambler's insurance policy, hidden in a spring-loaded rig up the sleeve of a coat that cost more than Eldridge's horse. "Sorry, cowboy," Virgil whispered. He aimed at Eldridge's heart. Eldridge moved. He didn't reach for the Colt. He didn't roll. He kicked. He drove his right boot up and out, putting all the snap of his hamstrings into the motion. The heel of his boot connected with Virgil's wrist. Crack. The sound of bone meeting heavy leather was loud. Virgil screamed. The derringer flew out of his hand, spinning away into the darkness. It hit a rock and discharged. Bang! The shot tore a hole in the silence. The bullet whined off the canyon wall. Virgil fell back, clutching his wrist. He rolled in the dirt, groaning, curling around the pain. Eldridge stood up. He pushed his hat back. He walked over to where the derringer had landed. He picked it up. It was warm. One barrel fired, one live. He walked back to Virgil. "Get up," Eldridge said. Virgil didn't get up. He lay in the dust, rocking back and forth. "You broke it," Virgil gasped. "You broke my wrist." "I aimed for the gun," Eldridge said. "You moved." He cracked the derringer open. He plucked the live round out and tossed it. He dropped the empty gun into his pocket. A sleeve gun, Eldridge said. I should have checked the tailoring. Virgil sat up. He cradled his arm against his chest. His face was gray, sweat tracking through the grime. I had to, Virgil said. The hat. It's just sitting there. You were going to kill me for a hat. For the future. Virgil shouted. For the life I earned. You're dragging me to a cage, Sample. You're dragging me to a rope. What did you expect me to do? Thank you for the ride. I expected you to be smart, Eldridge said. Shooting a federal officer turns a prison sentence into a hanging. You know that. I'm dead anyway, Virgil said. Bishop kills me, or the law kills me. At least with the money, I had a chance. Eldridge looked down at him. He saw the fear. It was a living thing, eating the man from the inside out. You held that gun through the ambush, Eldridge said. You held it through the siege in the jail. You could have used it on Bishop's men. You could have helped. I saved my ammo for the exit, Virgil said. And this was the exit. This was the only door left. Eldridge shook his head. I expected better, Virgil. I thought you were a professional. I am a professional, Virgil spat. That's why I didn't shoot you in the back. I waited until I had the angle. And you missed the kick. Eldridge reached down. He grabbed the chain between the cuffs. He hauled Virgil to his feet. You walked into the badlands, Eldridge said. Now you walk out. My wrist, Virgil moaned. It's swelling. It'll throb, Eldridge said. Keeps you awake. I can't have you sleeping in the saddle. He dragged Virgil to the horses. The animals were spooked by the gunshot, pulling at their tethers. Eldridge calmed them. Mount up, Eldridge said. I can't climb. My hand. Use the other one. Or stay here. Bishop heard that shot. He knows exactly where we are now. Virgil looked at the dark horizon to the east. The gunshot was a beacon. A loud, clear signal that the quarry was close. He's coming, Virgil whispered. He was always coming, Eldridge said. You just rang the dinner bell. Virgil struggled onto the gray horse. He grunted with pain, tears leaking from his eyes, but he got into the saddle. He huddled there, cradling his injured arm, looking like a broken doll. Eldridge mounted the bay. We go west, Eldridge said. Fast. We'll never make it, Virgil said. Not now. He knows. Ride, Eldridge ordered. They moved out. They pushed the horses hard, navigating the treacherous ground by starlight. The terrain was a nightmare of drop-offs and ravines. Eldridge kept looking back. An hour later, he saw it. A flare. Not a gunshot. A light. A match struck in the dark, or a lantern shutter opened for a second. It was behind them. Maybe 2 miles. They're close, Eldridge said. They found the hat, Virgil said. His voice was dead. They found the hat, and they found the money, and now they're coming to scrub the ledger. Stop talking about the hat. It's all I can think about, Virgil said. $50,000. Sitting in the dirt. And Bishop's dirty hands counting it. Eldridge didn't answer. He focused on the trail. They needed a defensive position. A place to make a stand. The open desert was a killing floor. He saw a shape ahead. A structure. It stood on a rise, silhouetted against the stars. Stone walls. An archway. A collapsed roof. Mission, Eldridge said. What? Old Spanish mission. Or what's left of one. Ruins. San Cristobal, Virgil said. I heard about it. It's supposed to be haunted. It's supposed to have walls, Eldridge said. That's good enough for me. He steered toward the ruins. We hole up there, Eldridge said. We wait for daylight. Or we wait for Bishop. We're trapping ourselves again, Virgil said. Just like the jail. The jail didn't have a bell tower, Eldridge said. This does. High ground. They rode up the slope. The mission was a skeleton of adobe and stone, bleached white by centuries of sun. The main sanctuary was roofless, open to the sky, but the walls were thick. Eldridge rode through the archway. He dismounted. Get down, he told Virgil. Virgil slid off. He stumbled, holding his wrist. Inside, Eldridge said. Back corner. Keep your head down. Virgil walked into the shadows of the sanctuary. Eldridge led the horses into the remains of the rectory. He tied them. He walked to the entrance. He looked back down the trail. He saw the movement. Shadows detaching themselves from the darkness. Riders. Bishop wasn't waiting for dawn. He was coming now. And he wasn't alone. 6 riders. The whole pack. They're here, Eldridge said. He checked the Winchester. 3 rounds in the tube. 1 in the chamber. He checked the Colt. 5 rounds. He checked his pocket. The key. The warrant. And the dead man's badge. Virgil, Eldridge called out softly. I'm here, the voice came from the dark. Bleeding. Don't bleed out yet, Eldridge said. We got company. Is it Bishop? It's the whole choir. Eldridge moved to a gap in the adobe wall. He rested the rifle. He waited. He thought about the twist. The sleeve gun. Virgil had tried to punch his ticket. It hurt in a way. Not the attempt itself. Eldridge expected betrayal from men in cuffs, but the timing. They were in the fire together. Your bad luck, Virgil, Eldridge whispered. I'm ambitious, Virgil whispered back. The riders slowed. They spread out, forming a line. They knew the terrain. They knew the target. Bishop's voice drifted up the hill. Sample. It was the same voice. Confident. Arrogant. I know you're in the church. Bishop yelled. And I know you ain't got the bonds. Eldridge froze. I found the hat, Virgil. Bishop roared. He laughed. Nice hat. Fits me perfect. And the lining, well, the lining pays for a lot of sins. Virgil let out a moan. He has it. He has the paper, Eldridge said. So why is he here? Virgil asked. Why didn't he turn around? Because he's greedy, Eldridge said. And because I shot his horse. Come on out. Bishop yelled. We can settle this. I got what I want. You give me the rat, and I let you walk away. I'm feeling generous tonight. Eldridge looked at Virgil. He's lying, Virgil said. He'll kill us both. To test the new gun he buys with my money. I know, Eldridge said. He sighted down the barrel. The hat was gone. The bluff was gone. The alliance was broken. All that was left was the shooting. Eldridge pulled the hammer back. Welcome to church, Bishop, Eldridge said. He squeezed the trigger. Chapter 17. The muzzle flash from Eldridge Sample's Winchester was a blinding white flower blooming in the dark, erasing the stars for a split second. The bullet hit the man riding next to Bishop. It didn't kill him. It hit his saddle horn, shattering the wood and sending splinters into the man's gut. The rider yelled, his horse rearing and twisting, breaking the line of the charge. Then the world exploded. 6 rifles opened up from the darkness. Lead hammered the adobe walls of the mission, turning the dried mud into a stinging cloud of dust. Chips of stone flew like shrapnel. The noise was a physical weight, pressing against the eardrums, drowning out the wind and the screams of the horses. Eldridge ducked below the window ledge. He worked the lever of the Winchester. Clack, clack. "Keep down," he yelled at Virgil. Virgil didn't need telling. He was already flat on the ground in the corner of the sanctuary, curled into a ball, clutching his broken wrist and sobbing something that sounded like a prayer to a banker. Eldridge popped up. He fired again. A snap shot at a muzzle flash near the archway. He missed. They were moving fast. Bishop's men were professionals. They didn't just sit there and trade shots, they flanked. 2 men went left, scrambling over the rubble of the fallen west wall. 2 went right, circling toward the rectory where the horses were tied. Bishop stayed in the center, directing the fire. "Pour it on," Bishop roared. "Keep his head down. Miller, get inside. Flank him." Eldridge fired his last rifle round. He dropped the Winchester. He drew the Colt. He scrambled backward, moving deeper into the shadows of the nave. He needed a choke point. The altar. It was a block of stone at the far end, solid cover. He grabbed Virgil's collar. "Move," Eldridge hissed. Virgil was dead weight. He scrambled on his knees, slipping in the dirt. A shadow appeared on the top of the west wall. A man in a duster, silhouetted against the sky. Eldridge fired. The man grunted. He fell forward, tumbling into the sanctuary. He hit the ground with a heavy thud and didn't move. "One down," Eldridge said. "They're behind us," Virgil screamed. Eldridge spun. 2 men were rushing through the door of the rectory. They had come through the back. Eldridge thumbed the hammer. He fired. The lead man dove behind a pew, or what was left of one. The second man fired his pistol on the run. The bullet grazed Eldridge's ribs. It felt like a hot poker sliding under his skin. He grunted, stumbling back against a pillar. He fired again. Click. Empty. He had 5 rounds. He counted 5. He must have miscounted in the dark, or dropped one when he was loading. "Damn," Eldridge whispered. He didn't have time to reload. The men were rushing him. He reversed the Colt, holding it by the barrel. A club. The first man reached him. A big man with a beard, and a shotgun he hadn't fired yet. He swung the stock. Eldridge ducked. He swung the pistol. He connected with the man's jaw. Bone crunched. The man staggered. But the second man was there. He didn't shoot. He didn't want to hit his friend. He lunged, tackling Eldridge around the waist. They went down. They hit the hard-packed earth floor in a tangle of limbs and dust. Eldridge lost the gun. He drove an elbow into the man's neck. The man gagged. Eldridge tried to roll, to get leverage. A boot kicked him in the head. It wasn't a casual kick. It was a punt. The toe of a heavy riding boot caught him right behind the ear. Lights exploded behind his eyes. Red. White. Black. The strength went out of his arms. The world spun, tilting on its axis. He felt the cold dirt against his cheek. He tasted blood and copper. "Hold him," a voice yelled. Hands grabbed him. Rough hands. They pinned his arms. They dragged him up. Eldridge tried to shake his head to clear the fog. It didn't work. His vision was swimming. He saw Virgil. The con man was being dragged out of the corner by his hair. He was screaming about his wrist. "Shut him up," a voice said. A fist hit Virgil in the mouth. The screaming stopped, replaced by a whimpering spit of blood. The shooting had stopped. The dust was settling, drifting in the starlight like ghosts. Boots crunched on the gravel. Slow. Deliberate. Bishop walked into the sanctuary. He walked through the archway, stepping over the rubble. He had a lantern in one hand and a revolver in the other. He looked at the man Eldridge had shot on the wall. Dead. He looked at the man Eldridge had hit with the pistol, groaning, holding his jaw. Then he looked at Eldridge. Bishop smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who had just won a pot he thought he'd lost. "Sample," Bishop said. "You are a persistent nuisance." Eldridge tried to speak. His tongue felt thick. "Just doing the job." "Your job was to die in the wash," Bishop said. "You overstayed your welcome." Bishop handed the lantern to one of his men. He holstered his gun. He reached up. He was wearing a hat. A black bowler hat. Dusty, slightly battered, but unmistakably city-made. Virgil saw it. He let out a low moan. Bishop took the hat off. He spun it on his finger. "Nice hat," Bishop said. "Found it on the trail. Just sitting there on a bush like a bird's nest. Fits me pretty good, don't you think?" "It's mine," Virgil whispered through his split lip. "Possession is 9/10, Virgil," Bishop said. "You taught me that. Remember? When you cooked the books." Bishop reached into his boot. He pulled out a knife. He turned the hat over. He slid the blade under the leather sweatband. He sliced. Zip. He pulled the lining back. He reached in. He pulled out a packet. Oilskin. Flat. He opened it. He pulled out a sheaf of papers. Heavy bond paper. Intricate engraving. Green ink. Bearer bonds. Bishop held them up to the lantern light. He fanned them out like a winning hand of poker. "Look at that," Bishop said softly. "Beautiful. Just beautiful." He looked at Virgil. "You walked right out of camp with these," Bishop said. "Right under my nose. You smiled at me, drank my whiskey, and you had $50,000 sitting on your head." "It was my share," Virgil said weakly. "For the thinking." "Thinking don't pay this good," Bishop said. "Stealing pays this good." Bishop folded the bonds. He put them in his pocket. He buttoned the flap. He looked at Eldridge. "And you," Bishop said. "The hero. The Marshal." "Deputy," Eldridge said. "You tried to bluff me," Bishop said. "With a train schedule. You burned a wagon. You blew up a jail. You cost me 3 men and a lot of sleep." "Price of doing business," Eldridge said. Bishop laughed. He walked over to Eldridge. He stood toe-to-toe with him. "Business is concluded," Bishop said. He turned to his men. "Check the ruins," Bishop ordered. "Find a beam. A sturdy one." "A beam?" the man holding Eldridge asked. "You want to shoot him?" "Shooting is too quick," Bishop said. "And it's too noisy. We're in a church, boys. We should respect the setting." He looked at the open roof of the sanctuary. A heavy oak timber, charred from an old fire but still solid, spanned the walls 20 feet up. "There," Bishop pointed. "That'll hold 'em." "Hang 'em?" the man asked. "Hang 'em," Bishop said. "Both of them. Side by side. Like ornaments." Virgil started to struggle. "No. You can't. I'll work for you. I'll cook the books. I'll make you rich." "I'm already rich," Bishop said, patting his pocket. "And I don't need a bookkeeper who steals." He looked at Eldridge. "Any last words, cowboy?" before your throat closes up." Eldridge looked at the beam. He looked at the men holding him. He looked at Bishop. "Yeah," Eldridge said. "You're wearing the hat wrong. It's supposed to tilt to the left." Bishop frowned. He put the bowler back on his head. He tilted it. "Better?" Bishop asked. "Much," Eldridge said. "Makes you look like an undertaker." Bishop grinned. "Fitting." He waved his hand. "Get the ropes," Bishop said. "Let's finish this." The men dragged Eldridge and Virgil toward the center of the room, under the black timber that cut across the stars. Chapter 18. The rope was rough hemp, stiff with age and dry rot, but it felt strong enough to hold the weight of a man. A bandit named Miller threw the coil over the charred oak beam that spanned the sanctuary walls. It whistled through the air, looping over the black wood, and dangled down into the lantern light. "One," Miller said. He threw a second rope. It landed next to the first, swaying in the draft. "Two," Miller said. Eldridge Sample stood in the center of the ruin. His hands were tied behind his back with rawhide strips that cut into his wrists. His head throbbed where the boot had connected, a dull, rhythmic ache that matched the pounding of his heart. Virgil Sweet was on his knees next to him. The con man wasn't standing. He was sobbing, a low, wet sound that vibrated in his chest. His expensive suit was rags. His face was a mask of blood and snot. "Get up," the man guarding them said. He kicked Virgil in the ribs. Virgil groaned. He tried to stand, slipped, and stayed down. "Leave him," Bishop said. Bishop was sitting on a block of stone that had fallen from the altar. He had the lantern set on a flat rock beside him. He held the oilskin packet in his lap. He wasn't looking at the prisoners. He wasn't looking at the ropes. He was looking at the future. He opened the packet. He pulled out the stack of bonds. They were crisp, heavy paper, engraved with green ink and intricate scrollwork. Union Pacific Railway. Bishop wet his thumb. He peeled the first bond off the stack. 500, Bishop whispered. He peeled the second. 1,000. He looked up at his men. His face was flushed, his eyes bright with the fever that only gold or paper that acted like gold could produce. "Get them ready," Bishop ordered. "I want to watch them kick while I count." Miller grabbed Eldridge. He shoved him under the first rope. He fashioned a noose, a simple slipknot, not a hangman's coil. It was crude, but gravity didn't care about craftsmanship. Miller dropped the loop over Eldridge's head. He tightened it. The hemp bit into Eldridge's neck, scratching the skin. "Tight?" Miller asked. "Snug," Eldridge said. Miller laughed. He grabbed the loose end of the rope. "When I pull," Miller told the other bandit, "you kick his feet out." They moved to Virgil. Virgil saw the noose coming. He scrambled backward on his knees. "Please," Virgil screamed. "Bishop, listen to me. I can help you. I can wash this. You can't just walk into a bank with 50,000 in consecutive numbers. They'll catch you." Bishop didn't look up. He was counting. 3,000. 3,500. "You need a broker," Virgil yelled. "You need a front man. I know people in San Francisco. I know bankers who don't ask questions." "Shut him up," Bishop said distractedly. 4,000. The guard grabbed Virgil by the hair. He dragged him under the beam. Virgil thrashed, kicking out with his legs. "Hold him still," Miller grunted. They wrestled the noose over Virgil's head. They cinched it tight, cutting off the scream, turning it into a choked gurgle. Virgil froze. The reality of the rope touched his skin. He stopped fighting. He just shook, his eyes bulging, staring at Bishop. Bishop kept counting. 5,000. 6,000. He was in a trance. The paper fascinated him. He held each sheet up to the lantern light, admiring the engraving, checking the corners. He was stacking them in neat piles on the rock, organizing his retirement. Eldridge tested the rope. It was taut. Miller was holding the end, taking up the slack. Eldridge looked at Bishop. The gang leader was deep in the count. He was at 10,000 now. His lips moved with the numbers. He paused. He held a bond closer to the light. He squinted. He adjusted the angle of the paper. He frowned. He picked up another one. He compared them. Eldridge watched him. He saw the shift in Bishop's posture. The shoulders tensed. The smile flickered, then vanished. Bishop wasn't counting anymore. He was reading. He flipped the bond over. He looked at the back. He looked at the serial number, printed in red ink, at the bottom. "What is this?" Bishop whispered. He looked at the next one. And the next. His hands started to move faster, shuffling the papers, losing the reverence he had shown a minute ago. He was rifling through them, looking for something he expected to see but couldn't find. "Virgil," Eldridge said softly. Virgil didn't hear him. He was hyperventilating, staring at the ground. "Virgil," Eldridge said louder. Virgil looked at him. His eyes were wild. "Look at Bishop," Eldridge said. Virgil looked. Bishop had stopped counting. He was holding a bond in each hand, staring at them like they had just turned into snakes. "Wait," Bishop said. He stood up. The stack of papers slid off his lap, scattering onto the dirt floor. He didn't bend to pick them up. "Hold it!" Bishop shouted at Miller. "Don't pull yet." Miller paused, the rope tight in his hands. "Boss." Bishop walked toward them. He shoved the bond into Virgil's face. "What is this?" Bishop demanded. His voice was trembling, but not with joy. Virgil looked at the paper. He blinked, trying to focus through the fear. It's a bond," Virgil squeaked. "Union Pacific." "Read the date," Bishop snarled. Virgil looked at the corner. "Series A," Virgil read. "Issued 1870. "Read the bottom," Bishop screamed. "The red stamp." "Read it." Virgil looked. He squinted. "Cancelled," Virgil whispered. "Cancelled." Bishop roared. He slapped Virgil across the face with the paper. "It says void. It says redeemed." The echo of the shout bounced off the stone walls. Eldridge looked at the paper, fluttering to the ground. He saw the faint red stamp mark across the face of the engraving. Void. Bishop turned to the pile on the ground. He kicked it. Papers flew into the air, drifting down like dead leaves. "They're trash." Bishop screamed. "It's all trash. Expired paper. Garbage." He spun on Virgil. He grabbed the con man by the lapels of his ruined coat and shook him until his teeth rattled. "You stole garbage?" Bishop yelled. "You risked my neck, you killed my men, you ran me across the desert for expired bonds." Virgil's eyes cleared. The panic receded, replaced by a sudden, terrifying clarity. I didn't know," Virgil stammered. "I just saw the numbers. I grabbed the packet. I didn't check the dates." "You're the bookkeeper," Bishop shouted. "You're supposed to know the difference between money and wallpaper." Bishop let go of Virgil. Virgil slumped back, the noose going slack. Bishop paced the small circle of light. He was hyperventilating. The vein in his forehead was throbbing. $50,000, Bishop muttered. "I thought I had $50,000. He looked at his men. They were staring at him. They were staring at the scattered paper. They realized what it meant. No payday. No retirement. Just a long ride home with nothing to show for it but bullet holes and dead friends. The mood in the sanctuary shifted. It went from celebratory to ugly in the span of a heartbeat. Eldridge watched them. He saw Miller's grip on the rope loosen. He saw the other guard lower his gun, looking at the worthless paper. Distraction. It wasn't the distraction Eldridge had planned, but it was the one he got. Bishop stopped pacing. He looked at Virgil. He drew his revolver. "I'm going to kill you," Bishop said. "I'm not going to hang you. I'm going to shoot you in the belly and watch you bleed." "Wait," Virgil yelled. "The dates. Maybe they're still good. Maybe the bank will take them." "The bank takes money, you idiot. Not kindling." Bishop cocked the hammer. Eldridge looked at Miller. The bandit was watching Bishop, his mouth open. He had forgotten he was holding a prisoner. Eldridge moved. He didn't pull away. He stepped toward Miller. He moved fast, while everyone was looking at the paper and the gun. He threw his shoulder into Miller's chest. Miller grunted, stumbling back. He dropped the rope. Eldridge spun. He brought his bound hands up over Miller's head. He dropped the rawhide loop behind Miller's neck. He pulled. He used the bond on his wrists like a garrote. He strangled Miller, using the bandit's body as a shield. "Hey!" the other guard yelled. Bishop turned. He saw Eldridge wrestling with Miller. He saw the chaos. He fired. The bullet missed Eldridge. It hit Miller in the shoulder. Miller screamed. He went down, dragging Eldridge with him. The sanctuary exploded into motion. The distraction was over. The fight was on. And the only thing worth anything in the room wasn't the paper on the floor. It was the gun in the dead man's holster. Chapter 19. Miller was heavy, and he was screaming right in Eldridge Sample's ear. The bullet from Bishop's gun had taken him high in the shoulder, shattering the collarbone, turning the bandit into a thrashing weight of panic and pain. Eldridge didn't try to soothe him. He used him. He kept his knees pinned against Miller's ribs, staying low, using the wounded man as a meat shield against the lead flying from the altar. "Get off!" Miller shrieked. "He shot me. The crazy bastard shot me." "He missed me," Eldridge said. He reached down with his bound hands. His fingers clawed at Miller's belt. He found the holster. He found the grip of the Remington. He jerked it free. Bishop fired again. The bullet thumped into Miller's thigh. Miller arched his back, howling. "Stop shooting," the other guard yelled at Bishop. "You're killing him." "I'm killing the drifter," Bishop roared. "Move or die." Eldridge rolled. He pushed off Miller, spinning into the darkness behind a fallen pillar. He brought the Remington up. His hands were still tied behind his back, which made aiming impossible, but he wasn't tied behind his back. Wait, the rope was loose. No, Miller had dropped the rope. The rawhide strips on his wrists were still tight. He had to shoot backward or twist his body. He twisted. He lay on his side, bringing his hands down past his hips, contorting his shoulders until he could grip the gun between his knees to cock it, then holding it two-handed near his waist. It was an ugly stance. It worked. He saw Bishop. The gang leader was standing in the lantern light, surrounded by a blizzard of worthless bonds. He was firing blindly into the shadows, enraged by the loss of his fortune. Eldridge squeezed the trigger. Boom! The shot went low. It hit the stone floor inches from Bishop's boot, spraying gravel. Bishop danced back. He spotted the muzzle flash. There! Bishop yelled. By the pillar. The other two bandits, the one who had hesitated and the one guarding the rear, opened up. Bullets chipped the stone pillar, dusting Eldridge with powdered mortar. Eldridge couldn't stay there. He was pinned. Virgil! Eldridge shouted. I'm dead! Virgil wailed from the corner. I'm a corpse. You're loud for a corpse. Throw something. What? Throw a rock. Make noise. Virgil, huddled in the debris of the confessional, grabbed a handful of plaster and stone. He chucked it across the sanctuary. It clattered against the far wall, near the rectory door. The bandits turned. Reflex. They fired at the sound. That was the second. Eldridge sat up. He leveled the Remington. He took a breath. He fired. The bullet hit the bandit nearest the archway. It took him in the chest. He folded, dropping his rifle, and sat down hard in the dust. One left. Plus Bishop. He's got a gun. Bishop screamed. Kill him. Bishop ran. He didn't run toward Eldridge. He ran toward Virgil. He wanted a hostage. Or he just wanted to kill the man who had tricked him. Virgil saw him coming. He scrambled backward, crab-walking on his broken wrist, kicking out with his heels. Get away! Virgil screamed. Eldridge tried to bring the gun around. He couldn't get the angle without exposing himself. He saw the knife. It was lying in the dirt where Miller had dropped it. No, Miller didn't have a knife. It was the knife Bishop had used to cut the hat lining. He had dropped it when he started reading the bonds. It was 10 feet away. Eldridge scrambled. He dove for the knife. He landed on his shoulder, sliding in the grit. His fingers brushed the handle. He grabbed it. He sat up. He pinned the knife handle between his knees. He brought his bound wrists down onto the blade. He sawed. The rawhide was tough. The blade was sharp. He jerked his arms back and forth, feeling the steel bite into his skin, cutting the leather and the flesh. Bishop reached Virgil. He grabbed the conman by the throat and hauled him up. He jammed his pistol into Virgil's ear. Drop it, Sample. Bishop yelled. Or I paint the wall with his brains. Eldridge stopped sawing. The leather snapped. His hands were free. He stood up. He held the Remington in his right hand. Blood dripped from his wrists. Let him go, Bishop, Eldridge said. He ruined me, Bishop said. He was shaking. His eyes were wide, crazy. $50,000. Expired. He laughed at me. He didn't know, Eldridge said. He's just a bookkeeper. He's a thief, Bishop said. And you're a nuisance. Bishop shifted his aim. He moved the gun from Virgil's ear toward Eldridge. I'm going to kill you first, Bishop said. Then him. It was a mistake. A small one. The hesitation of a man who wants to see his enemy fall. Virgil moved. He didn't fight. He didn't hit. He just went limp. He dropped his weight. All of it. He became a sack of wet sand in Bishop's grip. Bishop stumbled, pulled off balance by the sudden dead weight. His aim wavered. Eldridge fired. One shot. The bullet hit Bishop in the center of the forehead. The light went out of his eyes before he hit the ground. He fell backward, releasing Virgil, and landed in the pile of worthless bonds. The papers fluttered up around him, settling on his chest like a shroud. The last bandit, the one near the door, looked at Bishop. He looked at Eldridge. He looked at the gun, leveled at his belly. He dropped his rifle. He raised his hands. I'm out, the bandit said. "I'm done. Just wanted the money." "The money is trash," Eldridge said. "I see that." "Start walking," Eldridge said. "North. If I see you again, I won't miss." The bandit didn't argue. He turned and ran into the darkness, boots crunching on the gravel, fading into the desert silence. Eldridge lowered the gun. He let out a breath that hurt his ribs. He walked over to Virgil. Virgil was sitting on the ground, wiping blood from his mouth. He looked at Bishop's body. He picked up one of the bonds. He crumpled it in his fist. "Expired," Virgil whispered. "Can you believe that? Expired." "Paper burns," Eldridge said. "Remember?" "It wasn't even worth burning," Virgil said. He looked up at Eldridge. "You shot him. He was going to shoot you." "You saved me," Virgil said. He sounded surprised. "Again." "I have a delivery to make," Eldridge said. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out the key ring he had taken from Tate. No, the keys were for the cage. He pulled out the spare rawhide strips from his pocket. "Give me your hands," Eldridge said. Virgil pulled back. "You're tying me up. After this." "I'm tying you up because of this," Eldridge said. "You tried to kill me with a sleeve gun, Virgil. You don't get to walk loose." "I helped," Virgil said. "I went limp. That was a tactical maneuver." "It was fainting," Eldridge said. "Hands." Virgil sighed. He held out his hands. His wrist was swollen, purple. Eldridge tied him. He wasn't gentle, but he was careful of the broken bone. "We aren't going to Yuma," Virgil said. "Look at us. We're wrecked. No horses. Wait, the horses are out back." "We're going to Yuma," Eldridge said. He walked to Bishop's body. He kicked the gun away. He looked at the hat. The bowler. It was lying in the dirt, cut open, ruined. He picked it up. He dusted it off. He put it on Virgil's head. "You look like $1,000,000, Eldridge said. "I look like a man who lost a fortune," Virgil said. "You kept your life," Eldridge said. "That's the only asset that matters." He grabbed Virgil's arm. He hauled him up. "Let's go," Eldridge said. "The horses are waiting. And I'm tired of this church." They walked out of the sanctuary, stepping over the debris of a fortune that never existed, leaving the dead men to explain the math to the buzzards. Chapter 20. The sun crawled over the eastern rim of the basin, painting the ruins of San Cristobal in a light that was too bright and too honest for what lay on the ground. Eldridge Sample tightened the cinch on the black mare, Bishop's horse, now his. He checked the stirrup leather, giving it a hard yank. The animal blew out, stomping a hoof in the dust that was still tacky with the night's work. Virgil Sweet sat on a block of fallen masonry near the archway. His pinstriped suit was a collection of rags, held together by dirt and dried blood. His bowler hat sat crooked on his head, the slash in the lining gaping open like a mouth. His wrist was splinted with a piece of crate wood, and a strip of shirt cradled against his chest. "You're tying me to the horse again," Virgil said. "It's a long ride to the railhead," Eldridge said. "I don't want you falling off." "I won't fall. I have excellent balance." "You have a history of disappearing," Eldridge said. "I prefer you attached to something heavy." Eldridge walked over. He hauled Virgil up by his good arm. He marched him to the roan stallion, Virgil's mount for the last 20 miles of bad road. He helped Virgil into the saddle. He took the rawhide rope and lashed Virgil's ankles together under the horse's belly. "This is unnecessary," Virgil complained. "Where am I going to go? Bishop is dead. The money is worthless. I have no assets. You have a warrant, Eldridge said. That makes you valuable to the territory. $10, Virgil spat. You're doing all this for $10, and a thank you from a dead man. It's the principle, Eldridge said. Principle is what people have when they can't afford whiskey. Eldridge mounted the mare. He took the lead rope of the roan. They rode out of the ruins. They passed the body of Bishop, still lying in the drift of expired bonds. The paper fluttered in the morning breeze, scraping across the stone floor with a sound like dry leaves. They hit the trail west. The heat came up fast, baking the rocks. The silence of the desert returned, indifferent to the gunfire that had shattered it hours before. They rode for an hour. Eldridge saw the dust first, a column of it, rising straight up in the still air about 3 miles out. He pulled up. He squinted. Riders, Eldridge said. Virgil perked up. Bishop's men? The ones who ran. Too organized, Eldridge said. 2 by 2. Steady pace. He watched the dust. He saw the glint of brass. He saw the blue of the coats. Cavalry, Eldridge said. Or a prison guard patrol out of Yuma. The law, Virgil said. He slumped. Wonderful. Eldridge kept the horses walking. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He rode right down the center of the wash. The patrol spotted them. The column spurred forward, spreading out into a skirmish line. Carbines came out of scabbards. Halt, a voice roared. Eldridge halted. He held his hands up, away from his sides. A sergeant rode forward. He was a bull of a man with a mustache that covered his mouth, and a uniform that looked like he slept in it. He leveled his rifle at Eldridge. State your business, the sergeant barked. And keep your hands high. Bringing in a prisoner, Eldridge said. You don't look like a lawman, the sergeant said. You look like a road agent who had a bad night. It was a long night, Eldridge said. He moved his hand slowly to his vest pocket. Don't shoot, Eldridge said. I'm reaching for the tin. The sergeant tensed, but he didn't fire. Eldridge pulled out the badge. Marshal Tate's badge. He held it up. The sun caught the dented metal. Deputy U.S. Marshal, Eldridge lied. Acting. The sergeant rode closer. He looked at the badge. He looked at Virgil, tied to the horse, looking miserable in his bowler hat. Who's the package? The sergeant asked. Virgil Sweet, Eldridge said. Wanted for grand larceny and federal embezzlement. There's a warrant in my pocket. Sweet. The sergeant frowned. I heard about that. Marshal Tate was bringing him in. Tate didn't make it, Eldridge said. Ambush back at Chimney Rock. Bishop's gang. The soldiers murmured. Bishop was a name they knew. Bishop? The sergeant asked. Where is he? Eldridge jerked his thumb over his shoulder. Back at the mission, Eldridge said. He's dead. So are most of his boys. You might want to send a detail to clean it up before the coyotes get messy. The sergeant stared at him. He looked at the battered man on the black mare. He looked at the con man on the roan. You took out Bishop? The sergeant asked. By yourself? I had some help, Eldridge said. From the terrain. And some bad paperwork. Bad paperwork. Long story. Eldridge reached into his pocket again. He pulled out the warrant. He handed it to the sergeant. Here's the paper, Eldridge said. And here's the prisoner. He's yours. The sergeant took the warrant. He read it. He looked at Virgil. You Virgil Sweet. I am a victim of circumstance, Virgil said, straightening his tie with his good hand. And I demand a lawyer. And a bath. You'll get a cell, the sergeant said. And a bucket. The sergeant waved to his men. Cut him loose from the saddle, the sergeant ordered. Put him in the wagon. 2 troopers dismounted. They cut the ropes on Virgil's ankles. They hauled him down. Virgil stood in the sand. He looked at Eldridge. You're just giving me away, Virgil asked. After all that? Job's done, Eldridge said. You could have taken the money, Virgil said. Back at the campfire. We could be halfway to Mexico. The money was fake, Virgil. The offer was real, Virgil said. You're a stubborn man, Sample. So I've been told. The troopers grabbed Virgil's arms. They marched him toward the rear of the column, where a supply wagon waited. Hey, Virgil yelled, looking back. What about my hat? That's a custom bowler. Keep it, Eldridge said. Souvenir. The sergeant looked at Eldridge. You want to ride in with us? The sergeant asked. File a report. There might be a reward for Bishop. Eldridge thought about it. Reports. Paperwork. Questions about why he was wearing a dead man's badge. Questions about the jail in San Feliz. No, Eldridge said. I got miles to cover. Tate was a good man, the sergeant said. He was, Eldridge said. He wanted the job finished. It's finished. He took the badge off his coat. He handed it to the sergeant. Give this to his wife, Eldridge said. If he had one. The sergeant took the badge. He nodded. Ride safe, deputy. You too, sergeant. Eldridge turned the mare. He kicked her into a walk. He didn't look back at the patrol. He didn't look back at Virgil being loaded into the wagon. He rode south, toward the border, toward the quiet. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out the train schedule he had used to bluff Bishop. He looked at it. Just paper. He crumpled it up and tossed it into the brush. He checked his money belt. The $500 from the clay job was still there. He had lost a week, a hat, and a lot of sleep. But he was alive. Dead weight, Eldridge said to the horse. Some carry it in a sack. Some carry it in their head. The horse flicked an ear. Eldridge pulled his hat down low against the sun. He needed a drink. He needed a bath. And he needed to find a game of poker where the stakes were just money, not lives. He spurred the horse into a trot, leaving the law and the lies behind him in the dust. The end.